What is going on, everybody? It is your Wednesday night sports delight, the platform sports talk show. I am your boy Smooth, and I hope y'all enjoyed our new intro. I think it's dope for the sports talk show. Shouts out to my homeboy Justin, call him Bombay Boski. Dude is dope with the graphics, as you see out here in the Midwest, St. Louis, snowing, going crazy. Not like this. It was earlier, but I had to go ahead and let y'all know how it's going down right now in the Lou with this crazy Midwest weather. But once again, this is your Wednesday night sports delight. Almost, y'all, 5 years strong, consistently every Wednesday goes down right here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and immediately after the show, it'll be archived on Roku. So make sure y'all go ahead right now and hit that like, hit that share, show love for the Platform Sports Talk Show. And we have another incredible show in store for y'all. Another incredible guest. Going to have his story be told at the 8 o'clock hour. But once again, take this time to go ahead and share the stream. Let's get more people tuned in and have a good time. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the panel for today. Y'all know this lady. She holds things down. She at first was our hockey and baseball expert. Now she fam, y'all. That's my homie from the Boondocks. Holding things down as well for ladies' night. Y'all know her. Joe Bo. Joe, what's happening?
Not much. You kill me when you say the Boondocks, that's for sure.
the Boondocks, baby. Hey, all I know is I'm pretty sure you can attest to this, Joe. When it's snowing and there's ice out there, you don't want to be on them roads out there where you stay, right?
Oh no, it's bad. We got hills all over the place. We're on top of a hill ourselves, and I know Fox High School out here in Arnold. They called off school for yesterday, and and it
Mm.
didn't even do anything until about 4 o'clock out here. So yeah, it's crazy out here.
Yeah. So for those out there in them conditions, drive safe, take your time. We know it's crazy, so don't rush it. You'll be just fine. Up next, this man here, I can say he's until further notice, until something else just takes over his world for a while now. He's gonna be joining us every regular platform sports talk show appearance. He's also part of the Man Cave. Man, I wonder how he feels about the Rams winning the Super Bowl. We're gonna talk about it. I know he's probably like, damn, why you got to bring it up already? Let's go ahead and bring in T Bone Funk. T Bone, what's happening?
How's everybody doing? I'll start with Joe because what you just did there, sir. But hope y'all having a nice time out there in the snowy, cold conditions while some of us are here in sunny Orlando, Florida. Average temperature about 78 degrees.
Oh, he bragging. Oh,
It was literally
all
like
right,
57 degrees yesterday afternoon, and like 60 the day before.
right.
So yeah, glad to be here. Hopefully I'll be here for a while, and maybe I'll be able to continue when some other things come up.
That's what's up, man. And definitely it's a pleasure to have you on and taking time out to join us on the Platform Sports Talk Show. We know we're going to talk about some things, have some fun doing it. So, T Bone, welcome back again, man. And now, last but definitely not least, this show here wouldn't be the same without having this guy, this personality, his expertise. He is back on the show. He started the show from the get go, and he's back with us, y'all. And he'll be also part of the Man Cave. Everybody, show some love, read them comments. Stull, what's going on with your brother?
What's happening, fam? What's going on, man? Good to be
Man,
here.
everything is well. It looks like you and T Bone kind of matching with the color shirts. Is that navy blue you rocking?
You see what this is.
Nah, this is like it's more black. I don't know if
Oh,
it
okay,
shows
okay.
up there.
Okay, so you trying to be like me? I got you. I understand, brother. I understand.
Oh, maybe you're just trying to be like me. Hey,
Oh, I don't know about that one. No, I was playing. Shouts out to our favorite fan, Miss Williams. She says, "Welcome back, Stull."
thank you. Good to be back. Good to be back, at least for another episode here.
That's what's up. And she shows us love as well. What's up, Farid? What's up, Joe? What's up, T-Bone?
Hey, Miss Williams.
There we go. Looks like Joe is getting her screen together. She on froze like Mr. Freeze right now. It's that St. Louis weather doing it to her.
Oh, she gone now. Uh-oh.
Yeah, she'll come back in a second. Shouts out to the wifey. She says, "Hey, everybody."
What's going on?
Hey.
Make sure y'all go ahead and show her some love. Go to Jammin' with Jayonce, Jayonce. Go to her website right now. Get them waist belts. Follow her. Know what she's up to. She be holding things down at Lachey's every first Monday, and then every third Wednesday. Every third Monday of the month. She be doing her online virtual classes produced by yours truly. It's a vibe, y'all. She gets it in. So, wifey, I love you. Shouts out to you. Let's have some fun, y'all. Before I even continue, once again, hit that like, hit that follow on Facebook, on Twitter. Go on YouTube, subscribe, Joe. Click on that.
L.
There we go. Because anytime we go live, Stull,
You will be notified.
he remembers. Yes.
It's muscle memory, man.
And see, now I got to figure out something to add T-Bone on so he can be part of the mix. So T-Bone, I got you. Okay, so stay sharp, stay ready, Mr. Former professional wrestler. Stay ready. So once again, man, subscribe, follow us, like us, share this post. Let's get more people tuned in. Bring them comments. Let's have a good time with it. It's the Platform Sports Talk Show. As I brought up earlier in regards to the different shows that everyone is on now except for me. Shouts out to right now, Ladies Night goes down every first Wednesday of the month. So that means next week the ladies are back. Shouts out to Sharita. Shouts out to Bunny. Of course, Joe and Annie. Man, if y'all missed the show last month, woo-wee! It was incredible. Great dialogue. Just great conversation. I know they're going to bring it again to next Wednesday. And then I know T-Bone, Stull, y'all excited about this. But next month, finally, the debut of the Man Cave, hosted by Stan, Stull, T-Bone, Richard Cash. Stull, I got to ask you this question because it's the first time you've been on the show since we announced this. But when you saw Richard Cash going to be on the show, what was your thoughts, man?
Woo!
Enough said, huh?
Enough said.
And then we'll have Coach Brian Turner, BT, on the show. And then who's that guy again next to BT, Joe?
My lovely husband, Brendan.
There we go. And once again, hosted by Stan. So, Ladies Night every first Wednesday, and starting next month, the Man Cave every last Wednesday of the month. Exciting time for the Platform Sports Talk Show. I'm just excited. I'm just excited because seeing my baby grow and grow, and seeing these incredible people hold things down. I'm definitely appreciative of everyone being able to take some time out of their days to make this show as special as it is. So once again to y'all, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Yep. Miss Williams showing love to the wifey. I love it. Let's go. Oh, what was y'all thoughts on our new intro?
I texted you. I said that was sick. That was awesome. That came on. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Let's go.
That's dope, man. I mean, it's just moving on up. I just keep on thinking of those two stools and like a white background and
right. It came a long way, bro.
Me looking like
oh man, I'm telling you.
My name is Stull welcome to the platform. Yeah.
I mean,
Man,
I'll say that since the first time me and Brendan were over on the show, that's completely different now. You know, obviously,
right.
being able to do this virtually, changes a lot of things. But I mean, when me and Brendan were there, it was just me, you, Stan, Brendan, and oh my gosh, why I forget B Baker, and
Right.
we're just sitting there at a table talking, and now it's just better. It's awesome, just keep on improving.
Yeah. And some people they be like, COVID has just changed things and made things this whatever. But I'm gonna always say for our show, it made things 100 times better. So being able to get more guests and everything like that, and being able to not have to worry about, hey Fred, I'm on the way. I might be there late. No, you can just log on from wherever you at now. We can have this conversation. So shouts out to technology.
Hey, especially at a time like this where it's snowing and everything.
Right.
Well, speak for yourself.
All right, Mr. Out of Timer.
Yeah, T-Bone got lucky, but then once it gets to spring or summertime, everybody gonna be like, oh my God, it's hot. Oh, I gotta go somewhere else. It's hot. So you know how we are in the Lou. I always say people act like they ain't been here for, especially if you're 20 plus years old. You know how the weather is. Stop acting brand new. It's a season, okay? You'll be okay. It will be just fine. I guarantee you. But anyway, let's get right into it, y'all. You now have my attention. What sports story or stories has your attention? Joe, start things off for us.
I got two that are kind of quick. One's just the Calgary Flames. They've won 10 games in a row, looking really hot. And then college baseball. College baseball started over the weekend, so did college softball. And Twitter's thriving. There's no baseball anything going on right now other than hearing that, old guys are sitting down talking to players. And it's been fun to watch. If you have ESPN Plus, then you can watch literally any game you want to. So it's a fun atmosphere, and it's been fun.
Yeah. And I know you can bring up baseball, cause I know it's a sore spot for you. It is for me and for other, St. Louis, baseball fans, should I say. But the good thing is that they're talking about, having multiple meetings during the week, not just once a week for just 15 minutes like they had the other day. Hopefully, no more of that. But hopefully, in the next 2 weeks or so, we can say we finally got everything out of the out the way, and baseball is back. We're praying on it, okay? Well, if you love baseball and you are a prayer warrior, we need your prayers right now.
Well, MLB put a deadline on the 28th, saying if nothing's done by then, we're not going to have 162 games. Obviously players aren't going to get paid for a full season, and it's gonna suck, So they're obviously threatening the players pretty much. That's what they're doing. So the players are probably gonna get the shit under the stick when it comes to everything.
Yeah, and it's definitely unfortunate. T-Bone, what about yourself?
The one that comes to my mind, and I'm glad we have Stull on for this one because this is perfect.
A
few years ago, on this very show right here, we were talking about older wrestlers coming back and how that's the worst thing ever. And I remember saying, so you mean to tell me if Stone Cold Steve Austin were to return to wrestling, you would not be interested? And wouldn't you know, it looks like at WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin will be returning and likely facing Kevin Owens. They have my attention. I will be watching.
I mean, I got a little chilly bump, so you got my attention too, because Stone Cold is one of my guys.
It doesn't. No. It ain't the same.
You haven't seen it, so how can you say it ain't the same?
I haven't seen it. I've seen
you don't want to
shape now outside the ring.
What do you? Oh, all right.
it doesn't appeal to me. That's why I haven't been watching it for the past
doesn't appeal
4
to
years.
you, but I'm pretty sure that the moment that he sets foot into a Raw ring, the tickets for both nights of WrestleMania are going to sell out with the hope that he's on one of those 2 nights.
And especially with it being in Dallas, Texas, too.
Dallas, Texas. He finally gets to have the match where he actually retires, and people know he's likely actually retiring at this point. Because the last time, nobody knew. Nobody knew until after the fact, and it was like, wait, that's it? But if he has the chance to go out in Dallas, Texas, where he started, I mean, this ain't a wrestling thing. This is a society thing. We're the people who grew up watching all these people in the 80s and 90s on cable television, local television, before everything blew up and there wasn't, 50 different 200 channels and 20 streaming services where everything was so diluted because people can't focus their attention. We're the generation that grew up on all those people, and that's why all the movies that we grew up watching, they're bringing back somehow, all the TV shows. And this is the one where I don't think, besides Stull, I don't think there's a person out there who's upset that this is happening.
Sometimes you just can't go home again, man.
Hopefully
you can't go back. You can't keep going back, man.
Hopefully I can come home. And please, Washu, if you're listening, please let me come home.
I'm coming home. I'm coming home. All right, so Stull, you up, man? What you got?
Tell you the truth, I've been out of the loop ever since the NFL season ended. Just been busy, but so one thing that got my attention is Juwan Howard, man. What you doing,
man?
What are you doing, Juwan?
He's over
here. He's over here. He's over here throwing hands or palms or what have you. And I'm thinking, man, what are when they talked about I think it was Stanton that said, hey, there was a brawl at the end of the Michigan-Wisconsin game. I'm thinking, man, what are these guys doing? I'm thinking, some of the players got into it. It's Juwan Howard. It's the coach. It's the coach is getting into it. I'm like, oh my goodness, man. And with Juwan Howard having a great reputation in the community, very community oriented, you just didn't see that. Although, in his playing days, he did have a temper a little bit. But man, you just can't do that, man. That's a poor sense of judgment in that moment, and it was just bad, man. So I believe they came down with him. He's going to be suspended for the rest of the season. That's like 5 games. But yeah, that had my attention, real quick, because I was ready to get ready for March Madness here coming up.
Right.
And that
he already started.
He already started with
March. That was the March to March Madness right there.
My Lord. Someone mentioned this and said he should have had that same energy for Chris Webber. When I heard that, I died laughing. I sure would have been like, Chris, what the you doing? He wants to lose the damn game.
Time out. Ain't no timeouts? Oh, damn.
Oh, man. That's what he's supposed to have, went on and went haywire with him. But, yeah, that's definitely an unfortunate event. And especially, Juwan Howard, but his 3rd year now in Michigan.
Reigning coach of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not a good look in regards to, when you're recruiting kids and you want them to be better men and et cetera, and then you're doing what you're doing. You lose your cool because something didn't go your way. You're losing the game. You already been out of shape. Then, the coach called timeout and you're getting your fee-fees. I've always said on this show, Stull, you can't be in your fee-fees, man. Look what happened. Look what happens. You cannot be in your fee-fees.
It's terrible. And you're trying to teach your young guys, values and things of that nature.
Right.
And then you go around and just do that. You just have a lapse in judgment like that. You just can't do that.
Yep. So, like you said before, he's suspended for the rest of the regular season. Looks like he may be back by either tournament time for the conference tournament or, well, from what I'm seeing, they're not gonna make the big dance. So they may be doing like some NIT stuff. So, we shall see. In regards to myself, first off, I want to show locally some love to Lindenwood University. Shouts out to like Randy Kirker, Greg Amzinger, Danny McLaughlin, so many others who went there. I think Tom Ackerman did too. Joe, just tell me if I'm wrong. No. Tom Ackerman went to Indiana University, but yeah, Lindenwood made it official today that they will move up to the FCS and join the Ohio Valley Conference. And this is a big deal because it makes Lindenwood the first college in the St. Louis, St. Charles area to be a Division I football program in St. Louis metro area history. So a big thing went down today for Lindenwood. Shouts out to their program. This definitely should boost recruiting for the locals who want to play D1 football. Now you have the opportunity to do so while still being in the St. Louis metro area. So once again, shouts out to Lindenwood University for some groundbreaking news in regards to that. It was like maybe 5-6 years ago that they were a NAIA school, and now they in the Ohio Valley Conference, and they said by 2025 or 26, they'll be, like in basketball, how you get that automatic NCAA bid if you win your championship. So if they do that in a matter of years, they'll be automatically eligible to get the automatic bid for the big dance. So just shouts out, man. Big things going down in Lindenwood. And like I said, recruiting game has just changed for that school, especially now that you can play Division I. So much love to them. Second, the Winter Olympics. I know Bunny brought this up a while back on Ladies Night, but I'm not sure if it's COVID. I'm not sure if it's because of there's so many other avenues to watch, sports and TV shows now, especially because you're at home most of the time now. But it's like there's not, and definitely Joe, no NHL players going to, China or Japan or wherever they're at, South Korea, wherever they're at. Sorry. But the lack of star power, it seemed like there was a lack of interest in the Winter Olympics. Do y'all agree with that?
Well, just a simple fact that you didn't even know where the Olympics was.
Right.
It tells you a lot there.
Definitely in China, but I don't know if it was Beijing or not. I know it was in China.
It's Beijing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Beijing.
Yeah,
okay.
I remember it was like last Thursday, maybe. Brendan was saying, "Oh, Canada and USA is out of the, like they're going home now for the hockey. Like usually it's those two guys going at it. Kind of like how the women's hockey team is, but yeah, there's no professional players there, so it doesn't make it as interesting. Shaun White was fun and exciting. He's retiring now, so that was cool to see, but it really hasn't been as exciting as it's been in the past.
Yeah, and I was listening to 101 ESPN, shouts out to their crew, and they were talking about it a little bit today. And it's like, you think about the days of Apollo Ono and Chrissy Yamaguchi and even Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Hardin when you had the scandal going on, but it was still some kind of, you knew more people, whether it's figure skating to speed skating to skiing to hockey, whatever it was more, people were more tuned in to it. And it's just like now, and I'm not sure how y'all felt about the Summer Olympics. I'm not sure if it still had that big like it used to, back in the day. I'm not sure once again if it's because of COVID and stuff like that.
I think because the Winter Olympics has never been as popular as the Summer Olympics traditionally. Summer Olympics has always been just a little more popular, had a little more fanfare behind it. But I think I contributed that with the globalization of sports in general. You can see people, sports from around the world on a daily basis almost, any day of the week, with all the channels and all the access that we have to a lot of different sports from a lot of different places from around the world, where it doesn't have that big game feel, for lack of a better term, with the Olympics in general. So I think that's the what, it's just doesn't have, it's not as special to see that, right now in sports. And so it kind of lost its luster because of that.
I think it just has, I think it also has to do with a lot with, kind of what I said earlier about how there was less, like in the 90s, like when you're talking about like the figure skating, which yes, my mom had me watch figure skating when I was a kid, but so I could tell you a lot more names than I probably would like to know. But the thing is, like back then, like, there was only so many channels that people actually watched routinely. And now I think a lot of that has kind of gone away from the channels that people actually watch. So like NBC in the 90s and the 2000s was a much bigger deal than it is now. That's not saying that people don't watch it, but there's so many different things. And now you have streaming, where there's so many different streaming services that people watch their primary shows on. Like I don't have a NBC channel here. Like I don't have cable. So, and cord cutting also. So I don't have cable. So I like have Sling TV, and we have a Fox channel, but we don't have any of the other ones. And like you can watch it on Peacock, which I do have, which is probably the only reason why I actually did seek out some Olympic stuff, because I didn't get to go skiing this year and wanted to live out my skiing fantasies of the ski jump while watching it. But I mean, if you don't, the Olympics is one of those things where you don't have anything right in front of you telling you, okay, here's when these events are going to happen. Here's when this is going to happen. Here's the excitement behind these things. Like, it's just not as much. And I think this is when the TV guides went away and people started gravitating towards more cable channels, and then streaming took over. I just think that the importance of the Olympics kind of went off because nobody else really has an incentive to promote it except for NBC.
Yeah, and like with everything, kind of like you're saying with cable and everything, if you don't have, because you said Peacock has it, I think with the Fire Stick, it'll give you options to watch it. It'll like put everything down on the home screen, but I think you have to have a certain provider in order to watch that. So they don't make it easy for, viewing and whatnot, something as simple as the Olympics. But I think that also has a part of it, probably COVID. There's not a lot of star power there, a lot of names that we don't know personally, but yeah, I think that for sure is a big one. It's the same thing you could say for Cardinals games. If Fred didn't tell us about this new app, Uzu or whatever the heck it's called, we wouldn't be able to watch Cardinal games, So, and it's silly because we're in St. Louis. So I think that has a big part in it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this app. You gotta hit me to that.
Yeah, me neither.
But also, I almost lost my train of thought there. I was going to say something about they tried to NBC try to promote the Winter Olympics with the Super Bowl, to try to hitch their wagon to the Super Bowl and all the hype and saying that this is the greatest Super Bowl day. The Winter Olympics is happening at the same time as the Super Bowl, and it kind of fell flat. Like, okay, no, everybody's there to watch Super Bowl. They're really not concerned about the Winter Olympics. So
wait, did they both happen at the same time?
I mean, technically they did.
Like,
yeah.
I think.
I mean, they were on,
they overlapped is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they overlapped. That's what it is. But they made it a big deal. Oh, it's on the same day. And
yeah, I'm pretty positive it's overlap, because TV shows even like take breaks during the Winter Olympics whenever it's going on. Like a couple of my shows like just now started coming back because it's getting towards the end of the Olympics.
I think the Olympics also kind of suffer too. With that, you have the NFL was concluding their season, Super Bowl's happening. You have the NHL was about to have their All-Star game, the NBA having their All-Star game. Like, part of it is, it seems like individual sports leagues are really trying to compete with a lot of TV space. So like the NFL, I think if the NFL had it their way, there'd be something NFL related on TV big event every week for the entire year. Because, like, you know, if you notice, they've kind of pushed everybody else's stuff back based on what happened with the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think, oh my gosh, why am I blanking right now? Sorry, go to someone else. I totally blanked.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, I mean, everyone has some great points, man. A lot of different factors, and that could be the issue. There's so many different factors and reasoning in regards to why the Winter Olympics, and especially once again not having the NHL professional player. I think the NHL really brings up the hype for Winter Olympics because you're expecting, you know, your Team USA and Canada and, you know, all the other countries to compete. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. But that so far is what has our attention. We talked about a little bit earlier, Joe. Just once again, a little small recap in regards to the MLB. Another week, still no MLB. MLB wants to still have a mediator. Players like, nah, we just want to talk to y'all and get things right. Seems like they just butting heads. No one's trying to say, you know what, let's do this for the fans. Let's get this right. Let's, you know, whatever. Of course, the biggest issue still is money and having pretty much a salary cap. I know like the NBA has a salary cap, and owners feel like if we do that, it may make some teams not at well. Maybe a team like Pittsburgh and other teams be more competitive because they have more of a competitive balance. But then you have your Dodgers owners and your Yankee owners who will be like, you know, oh, it's gonna take away from how we've been successful, you know, pretty much over their term as owners. So just crazy that money is really affecting happiness right now in baseball.
And it's sad because I've seen a lot of fans on Twitter, you know, canceling all MLB related things, you know, MLB TV, which good, you know, like we told our cousin to do the same thing, you know, a lot of people end up doing that. Maybe they'll start listening, probably not because they're billionaires, you know, like they don't care. That's what sucks about it is the fans are the ones that are getting screwed over because, you know, they don't want the league to be competitive. So they don't want the league to be more entertaining for the fans. And the fans are the ones that are going to hurt on it. I will say there was an update. Paul Goldschmidt beard is on point still, and he still looks sexy.
Beard gang. Come on, Stull. You got to join the beard gang, man. Let's go.
I'm gonna breast by that anyway. Baseball, MLB in particular, has already had a problem way before this lockout with drawing more fans, and they have already lost the moniker of America's pastime, you know, to football. And one of the reasons is their promotion of their players, you know, making the game fun, making the game appealing. I was just, matter of fact, I was just reading an article that I saw that caught my eye that said the stolen base is officially dead in baseball. And they showed the numbers, how it's dwindled down throughout the years. And they have a big problem with drawing young people to the game. They're gonna wind up and look around, and they're gonna have a similar fan base as golf. You know, older, middle-aged men. You know, that's pretty much about it. You know, I mean, and now you add on this lockout, it just doesn't do it justice at all. Now you just, you know, the people that were really into it, the diehard fans, now you're pushing them back. And I just recall the last major lockout back in 1994, and how everyone kind of tuned out of the baseball, and if it wasn't for, you know, Cal Ripken Jr. with his streak, and then later on the home run race, baseball would be really in the dumps. I don't foresee something like that happening for the game again, unless they manufacture something to bring it back if they do have an extended strike. So
Yeah, I'm sad. Let's move on to the next topic. I hate talking about baseball. It's sad. Baseball is like the only thing besides like my husband and my daughter, or just family in general, that makes me ecstatic. And it's been really depressing. And all the players, you know, like I think as Alex Wood was just saying about them putting a hard deadline on the 28th. MLB is the one that put the lockout on. They're the ones that did it. You know, they're the ones that didn't want to talk to the players for about a month. So it's all on them, and they're the ones, again, are putting the hard deadline on the players, pretty much threatening them to just agree to whatever they want to do. And yeah, it's just miserable. Like you said, like I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago when we were on the show. It's going to take something. I think steroids is too extreme, but it's going to take something, like you said, with like the home run race to bring not just new fans into the game, but like diehard fans into the game as well. So it's just depressing.
Yeah. Well, I think Smoooth just had to step out just for a minute there, but he pushed it to you, Joe, to talk about We Got the Blues, our next segment on the platform.
All right, yeah. Well, the Blues, Jordan Bennington finally won a game last night as a starting goalie, like the first time in probably 2 months, honestly. So that was good to see. It was kind of cool because it was in Philadelphia, where in 2019 the Blues got things going, and Bennington had his first NHL win, and it was a shutout, and that's what got things going for us in 2019. Last week with the Canadians, we had an embarrassing loss, but we bounced back from that. So people are saying, though, we could talk about this, is they think that the Blues don't play well whenever they have to play in like Canada when there's no fans there. I think that's a BS excuse, because you can't. It's been happening since late 2020, I guess you can say. We had the bubble playoffs in 2020. It was happening like that last year. It happens in some places now. I don't think we can blame no fans being there for the energy, because like there's no reason for them to play a crap some days like that. You know, like I just think that's a silly excuse. You're like a grown man. You're getting paid to play a game. You should be fired up regardless to play. And then later, like, I don't know how much Stull and T-Bone you guys know about hockey, but
I have a question, because I'll be honest with you, I don't follow hockey at all, but I just want to know how are the Blues faring? Like, what are their chances of either making the playoffs, and if they make the playoffs, going all the way? What do you think?
I know they're in a playoff spot right now. It's funny because like we're doing okay, we're doing good, but we're still 10 points behind the Avalanche. So, I mean, still got some work to do. There you go, T-Bone. We still got the deadline coming up, you know, so hopefully to make some trades. The Blues are going to be in it, you know, unless they have a terrible, terrible meltdown. But being, like, serious cup contenders right now, I'm not sure. But, I mean, I can see it's like a second round, you know, in the second round of the playoffs. But I think if they make the right moves at the deadline, then, yeah. You could probably put us at serious cup contenders.
All right. There he is.
And I'm sorry, I had to change up my background. Sorry, y'all. So, but going back to the Blues, as you said before, Joe, Jordan Benton had a hey, hello, don't forget about me kind of game. So does that mean? So it sound like what they're saying is that he's gonna play again the next game. But after one game, do you feel that everything has changed, that he should start playing more games, or should they still focus on Husso being the main goalie as he's been all these last, pretty much the last month or so?
I mean, I think Husso needs to play the majority of the games, but I mean, shoot, this is the first time we've seen Bennington since the All-Star break, I think, So, I mean, you could throw him in there a little bit more. It's kind of like talking about Yachty and the backup catcher, you give that guy a chance every once in a while. But no, I think you're going to see Bennington more often because of this one start. It was a feel good story, like I said, because it was in Philly, and it was a good game by him. He's getting paid the money. He's going to have to play. That's literally the bottom line. He's going to have to play. But I guess the best thing would be is have two great goalies going down the stretch and going into the playoffs, and that would be our best bet.
And one thing I will say, is I like the way that Berube and the Blues organization handles situations like this. Because if you think about this, Sadal, if it was the Cardinals, Mike Schilt would have kept on playing a player consistently as if he's on the road, but knowing he's having a hard time. He'll keep on playing that guy, and then it keeps getting worse and worse. It doesn't get better and better. I like how the Blues are doing this, that, hey, Husso is doing his job. He's going to keep on playing. Bennington, you start playing better, you'll start getting more reps. But I just, over these last few years now, especially since they won the championship, it feels like to me, and Sadal, please add on, 'cause I know how you felt about Mosaic back when we started this show. But it seemed like Blues management, whether it's president of hockey operations, is better than John Mosaic, president of baseball operations. Berube has been better in handling players and handling situations, better than we've seen from Mike Matheny and Mike Schilt. So it seems like the Blues organization has a better culture going around their team over the last few years than the Cardinals. Do y'all agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
Joe?
you could agree with just won a cup in 2019. It's still fresh in our brains. The Cardinals haven't won anything. But yeah, I guess you could also point out, though, in 2019, we fired another coach again, so.
And why? Why?
Because they weren't winning. But again, that is not that they weren't winning. It's the players just were fighting and being idiots. That's the thing, though. The Blues have done that since I've been alive. I'm surprised Chief got another extension. Because since I've been on this earth, the Blues constantly fire their coaches, whether it's a coach problem or it's a player problem.
I thought you were talking about the Cardinals there for a minute.
Oh, no.
Like, why did they fire shit?
Sadal, we're done talking about baseball, okay?
Okay, cool.
It's over.
I'm surprised she wore the Cardinals shirt. I took my Cardinals thing down. I was like, I don't want to upset Joe.
It's cozy, okay? It's big and cozy. I wore it when I was pregnant.
So what you're saying, we're locked out of talking about the game of baseball, right?
We already talked about it today, so we're moving on. We can talk about it.
So you're saying that we talked about baseball and then we got the Blues.
And the Blues
I see what Smoooth did there with the lineup there. I see that.
Gotta love it. It's the Platform Sports Talk Show. What can you say? Yo, Wednesday night sports delight. As we move on, speaking of moving on, have St. Louis moved on from this?
Don't show it.
Love it.
Yes, the LA Rams, and I know Stan, he's not watching right now, but shouts out to him. He may watch it eventually down the road, but I know he's happy about this site. We had over a week now to get over it, for some to get over it, if they have or will. But what are y'all reactions to the LA Rams winning the Super Bowls? Sadal, I'll start with you.
No, I want to start with everyone else.
Okay.
I want to relax with what everyone else said. I want them to go first.
Their first Super Bowl, and all I literally put, I don't know if you can see it, I put a little throw up emoji right there. That's all I put. I will say one thing I will elaborate on more. It has nothing to do with the game itself. I was kind of disappointed by the halftime show.
Really?
Yeah, I hype myself up too much for it.
And see, I'll say this, because everyone has this expectation, because you see like 5 or 6 different artists, you're gonna get this long show, but halftime shows are usually like 12 minutes long. So you're not gonna get the full, like you at a freaking concert. You're gonna have snippets of this and that. So I mean, I won't say it was the best halftime show, but I definitely say that it held its own, especially because they have so many people that you're trying to, please, in regards to Mary J, in regards to Kendrick, in regards to Eminem, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent. He came out surprisingly, and flying from the sky, and then and of course Dr. Dre. So I feel like it was what it was. It wasn't the best, but I'll definitely have it in my top 5.
I was confused by the halftime show for the live audience, because it looked like they kind of outsmarted themselves, because they were I haven't looked and saw what they did afterwards, but I'm pretty sure they did some type of visual album or something like that with it. But like it looked like they were shooting everything for like a music video, which everything was isolated in those boxes and stuff like that. Within that, it looked like a big giant studio set. Right. And if you're in the audience, you know what? Forget the audience. They paid a lot. They're rich. Okay. If you can afford Super Bowl tickets, y'all rich. So you know what? Maybe it was better than I thought it was, but I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't understand why they isolated everybody in those cubes, you know, throughout the entire thing. And I know that they got up top eventually, but I didn't understand why they did that, except that they were trying to, you know, do something to actually shoot it for something else besides just the Super Bowl halftime show. And with Mary J, only thing I didn't understand was I heard an explanation afterwards, and I was like, okay, I guess I get it, but I don't know about no more drama at the Super Bowl. Like that was the only thing that was kind of like a little out of place.
I think she chose that because it's been one of her like favorite up tempo joints that people love to hear.
No more drama. The Young and the Restless sounding song. I mean, that's what it is. That the only thing about that one is it's not upbeat. That was the thing about it. It's like it kind of took it. It changed the energy of everything.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm thinking about
the other one was fine.
Yeah. I want to say it was Family Affair. The first song that she came out with, that was the upbeat one. So I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, it was kind of like a little melancholy kind of vibe to it. So yeah, you're definitely right. So my bad on that.
I think that LA, it's all big and bright and shiny, and I think they missed out on doing something with Pac. I know it's all daylight out there, but they can figure something out. It's LA. You need to see Tupac up there, and that's all I'm saying. I'm upset.
They did a little homage to Tupac when they did the
California Love.
I don't know why they didn't start with California.
But I mean, like Dre's in that song too, so it could have just been for Dre. I wanted to see Tupac.
I love it. I love the energy. Hey, Joe, just punch out the producer like Juwan Howard did the coach. But yeah, like I said, I thought it was good. And a couple of days ago, maybe it was last week, I had Michael Jackson's performance as number one. But then after I posted that, I resaw his halftime show on YouTube. And I guess because I was younger, I didn't realize it. But after seeing it last week, I may have to slide him down to like maybe 2 or 3. And the main reason why is because he lip synced the whole thing. And I'm like, oh no, he was lip singing. So when I'm a kid, I'm just seeing MJ like, hey, that's MJ, that's the king of pop, that's the, whatever, he can't do nothing wrong. But then as I got older and I've been, you know how we are, Stull, we are in that limelight of, performances and everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wait a minute. He was lip singing the whole time.
Just like rappers rapping over the regular track.
If you go back and look at some of those performances over the weekend, there was some lip syncing going on there.
Yeah. Like I want to say Eminem was lip singing and whatever. I think Dr. Dre was too. So, but like I said, and that's why I didn't have it number one. And as my wife, which I'm not surprised at all, any halftime show with Beyonce was the best. And I mean, hey,
so she's number one and number two.
Well, no, I think. Because I was just watching these a couple days ago. I think solo Beyonce, and when she had the other two from Destiny's come on, that's up there like top 3 for me. Like that would go, and it's awesome. And even Bruno Mars by himself. Not whenever they're together, I hated that. But them by themselves, those are some good ones.
I would say Prince is number 1 for me.
That's who I have number 1.
Prince is number 1.
And the only reason why is because of that damn rain that came down. That's the only reason
on Purple Rain.
You know what though? Yeah, it's one of those things where I know we have the recency bias of looking at some of these, but what's funny is if you go back and look at that 2000s era, from like probably 2000 till probably Janet, like a lot of those shows were pretty good too. I feel like they kind of get lost in the time because of who the acts were, but like. A lot of those shows were pretty good too.
And I'm glad you brought up Janet Jackson because I don't know if y'all seen the Lifetime documentary of Janet Jackson, but she explained everything from that incident, and it's like she's the only woman or person during that time in the world that was at peace and was not mad at Justin Timberlake at all. The whole world was, oh, we got to cancel Justin Timberlake. Oh, look what he did to Janet Jackson. Oh, he wanted her to fail. They've been cool since the moment that happened. She never had a grudge against him. She was the one telling him, like, hey, chill out. You know, the heat is on me. I'll deal with it. Because he was still, you know, he had like his first album coming out, you know, or whatever during that time frame. So he was still getting up there in regards to him being a solo artist. She was already established. She's already doing her thing as a solo artist. And she was the only damn person during that time that was showing him love. But we, the people, or the media at the time, because of, you know, what they were saying and portraying him, we were trying to hate on what he was doing. You know, oh, he can't go out to no more cookouts now because he hate, you know, he, you know what I'm saying, T-Bone? So it's like
crazy because if that would have happened today with how soft the world is,
oh my God,
everything is cancel culture now. You got to cancel
right.
everything. If you slip up and say something, he would have been, and he would have been one of the best, you know, artists, whatever you want to call them in our generation or my generation, whatever. But yeah, and I was like probably like 4 or 5 when I saw that. Imagine what was going through my head.
What?
Right.
Wait a minute.
I'm young. What year did that happen? What year did that happen?
2004.
I
was in college.
The 4th grade.
I was in college, man.
But yeah, Janet Jackson was she was a made artist at that point. She was in that era that we were just talking about where there was only so many people who were at the top and were known by almost everybody, and she was already there. So you couldn't do anything to her at that point. Even if she didn't have another successful album, she was going to make a lot of royalties off the ones that she already had.
Yeah. So before we bring on our special guest, I know he's ready. I know the people are ready. A few more segments to go. Gotta talk about this, man. We'll start with
finished talking about the Super Bowl. We just talked about the halftime show.
The only thing that was interesting.
Sorry about that because
we're not gonna let this slide now. Come on, man.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry.
I want to hear T-Bone.
You up next, man. Here. You up next.
Can I filibuster and lead want to Stull? Hey, if I could get you a WrestleMania 6 program, would you? Huh? All right, the Rams won the Super Bowl. They beat a Bengals team that had been beaten twice in the Super Bowl by the 49ers. And
30 years ago.
How many Super Bowl championships the Rams got?
We got 2 more than recently.
Not 2 more.
You have what? I'll let that slide. Look, the Rams won. Okay. Sure, they made it to the Super Bowl. They beat the 49ers, who had beat them twice earlier in the season. But
6 straight times, man.
Yeah, so I mean, look, there's no shame. You can't win the Super Bowl every year. The Bengals know that. The Rams know that. The 49ers know that. So, it happened. I enjoyed the broadcast. I actually like Al Michaels. I actually heard some people give Al Michaels some flack where they didn't want to see Al Michaels on there. And like for me, Al Michaels is one of those commentators where I'm like, I look forward to hearing his voice. It's something about his voice that just,
Yeah, he tells a great story. But to add on to what you were saying about Al Michaels, those are people who are mad because they're in their fifis. He's always kind of been like a pro, Rams or LA Rams kind of guy for real. So he loves to brag about SoFi Stadium or anything related to the Rams. So I think it's like a personal vendetta against him. But he's like Vince Scully in baseball. I mean, he's just incredible in regards to story making and play calling.
Yeah, and Bob Costas.
Right.
I'm missing one off the top of my head right now. But yeah, that era, yeah.
Marv Albert, all of them kind of guys. And I'll just go ahead and say real quick. Shout out to my fam. Had a great time with the Super Bowl party. Drinking real good, eating real good. But the game, I enjoyed it, man. I was telling one of my church members the other day that the Super Bowl was like a microcosm or the perfect ending to the playoffs, because ever since after the wild card round, from the division round to the conference championships to Super Bowl, we got what we wanted. The games were good. They were exciting. It was down to the last drive, whatever it was. Overall, this has been an incredible NFL playoff, one of the best NFL playoffs we've had probably ever. I know, like, once again, some St. Louis people may feel differently, understand, but to me, I just enjoyed the game. I thought it was great. Salute to the players who done their thing for the Rams and got them a ring. I feel good for OBJ. Look at the narrative that he was given over the last couple of years, being told he couldn't win, he wouldn't be successful, he's going to be a class clown. But he went to LA, he showed up, and he did his thing. He got hurt, unfortunately, but he came through, did his thing. Von Miller came through, did his thing. Jalen Ramsey, I know he gave up one touchdown, the other one, or one big play. That touchdown play was a face mask, clearly, but at the end of the day, he still held things down when need be. And of course, Cooper Kupp. What can you say? Best wide receiver right now in the game, got to be. And then of course, Aaron Donald. The man was drafted here in St. Louis. It's not his fault. He dominated, and he made sure that he got the team a win. So I'm glad, as a Rams, former St. Louis Rambo, just a Rams supporter. I still got love for him. It is what it is. So, Stull, the floor is yours.
All right. So I see T-Bone was trying to throw shade at me, but you know what? I'm going to take the high road, and I'm going to compliment the 49ers. For the past 7 times, the 49ers and the Rams played, the 49ers beat the Rams 6 straight times. Now, they lost the last one, but I mean, that doesn't count because that was, that it wasn't like they were playing for anything, right? Anyway, now to the game. Excellent game. I really believe not. Me and T-Bone been going at it for years on the Rams and the 49ers. So just, that's just nothing new to us. But
Emmitt Smith never played for the Rams.
Okay.
That was your guy. That was your guy back then. You were all about Emmitt Smith. You used to wear the jersey. He wasn't on the Rams team.
When the Rams came here in 1995, man, I've always been a Rams fan ever since. I didn't have anybody to root for, And so, yeah, I've been a Rams fan ever since. And you know what? I'm gonna give a hot take. I've been hearing a lot about these St. Louis fans. I'm not a Rams fan no more. They moved out, and I'm not a Rams fan. Well, I would venture to say, hot take, they were never true Rams fans to begin with. Because if you were, you would follow the team anywhere they went. I don't care if they went to the moon. If you're a Rams fan, you're a Rams fan, and that's it. Maybe they wasn't really true Rams fan. They were bandwagon fans. Anyway,
or just St. Louis hometown fans.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the St. Louis Browns.
I see people.
There's literally one human being that I know that is now an Orioles fan that was a Browns fan, and that's my uncle. So, that's a bad example. People can
root for the Hawks.
Players.
There's people that still root for the Cardinals, the football Cardinals, here in St. Louis. But we're not down on them, though. But all of a sudden, the Rams,
because it still hurts in their soul. It's been 6 years now. It still hurts in their blood. They feel it.
They didn't want you. He didn't want you. He moved, and he didn't give you a map of how to get there. Okay.
I wish Stull was.
It doesn't hurt me.
I'm
still a fan because it's not the team's fault. It's the Rams have always been my team ever since 1995. Like, almost coming up on 30 years. So that's never ending right there.
Well,
Now Stan Kroenke, he can
now wait
do
a minute.
something.
Now wait a
I'm not
minute.
gonna say here.
Wait a minute. So you're trying to tell me?
Uh-oh.
You're trying to tell me that the Rams are in LA now and that's your team. But you mean to tell me if in 5 years, and remember this podcast because we just had this thing about Austin. In 5 years, if the NFL said, all right, we're going to have 2 more expansion teams, and based on events that happened, we feel that there was a wrong and we want to right the wrong, and we're going to give St. Louis Stallions team that they were looking at in 1995, you mean to tell me you're going to be like, nah, I'm still a Rams fan?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that. Absolutely. I say that with full confidence. Now, that doesn't mean that I would hate the team that comes here.
Wow.
You know, I wish them well, but my true fandom lies with the Rams.
Why would you like even have any like?
Why aren't we questioning fans that are fans of teams that's never been in this town? Like,
because I started
like people that from native of St. Louis, like the 49ers.
Because
or people that like the Lakers. You don't never question them.
I was a 49ers fan in 1993, and that's just the way it's gonna be. Okay.
I've been a Rams fan since 1995, and it's all the way live.
Hey, Stull, all the LA Rams fans are saying you are enjoying their sloppy seconds.
Hey, you know. I want to say something, but I can't. It's a family show.
Is it?
It's a family Y'all gonna quit messing with me, man. The Rams are Super Bowl champs. All these haters.
We are the champions. All right, so
they won.
Once again,
but the game, like I let me get to the game here.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead.
It was a great game. I was nervous throughout the whole thing. The Bengals really played above their means in that game. I mean, they were holding the Rams. I know OBJ got hurt right there in the second quarter. You read your little damn magazine, son.
This could have been yours.
But anyway, no, props to the Bengals. Joe Burrow, it was clear that he didn't have an offensive line, but they held up. They held up for a little while there. And I mean, but it was just too much to overcome. I mean, I think it was like late in the fourth quarter, they had a little skirmish. You know, Eric Donald had a little skirmish with one of the offensive linemen, and they woke him up. And Matthew Stafford, which I've heard criticism about him all year. First, he couldn't win the big one. Then he couldn't lead them to the playoffs. Then he got to the playoffs. They couldn't beat anybody. Then they beat Tom Brady. Well, he got lucky and threw a lucky pass. Then he went to the 49ers, who was basically D'd him up the whole game. And then we won. And then we went to the Super Bowl. Oh, they can't win the Super Bowl. And then he leads a game-winning drive in the most important moment of the game where you needed it, and let them all the way down and to a win. So it was great to see that. And so and it, you know, the playoffs overall was one of the best playoff stretches that I've seen in a long time in football.
Flag on the play.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell me that nobody thought that the Rams could win the Super Bowl. Everybody thought the Rams could win the Super Bowl, including me. So
it was there like the pick.
I've heard the yeah buts. There's always the yeah but.
No,
the Rams could win, but he throws too many interceptions and he threw like 6 interceptions in the past 7 games. I don't trust them. I trust Garoppolo over Matthew Stafford. I've heard all.
People were preparing a hospital bed for Burrow because they knew that offensive line was
gone. And that's what happened. And my last question before we bring on our special guests, do you feel that the Bengals have their moment, their 5 minutes of glory, or would they be back again?
I mean,
think
Joe
they'll be
Burrow's the
back.
real deal, so I think they're gonna be back.
Joe Burrow is good. They got to protect him. They got to get offensive line. If they get an offensive line, they'll be back. They'll be in contention.
What? They need the Bengals to be back because they need to replace the faces of the league as far as the big name quarterbacks. They're all the big ones are gone except for one, and he's not exactly favored these days. So
did you see the AFC quarterbacks, man?
Right,
You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, you got Jackson over in the Baltimore Ravens.
Here's the thing,
you got Joe Burrow, you got the kid out of there from
San Diego Chargers. I mean, I'm sorry, the LA Chargers. My bad, Justin Herbert.
Herbert.
The problem is
stars, man.
The problem is they need the league, for the league's sake, almost like baseball. They need some quarterbacks who go deep every year. You got Mahomes, who's likely to do that, but they need somebody that Mahomes can have a rivalry with, and they need to figure out. They need those teams need to step up, and this is the time to do that because right now you have a chance to have quarterbacks who dominate the league or dominate the national coverage of football for the next 10 to 15 years.
You didn't see that Chiefs Bills game? You didn't see that the Bills, Josh Allen, the way he played in that game? And I mean, his star power is right there. I mean, yeah, I have full confidence in these young guys that'll step up. You'll see them, because if not them, who else is going to do it?
Well, it's not them; it's the team. They need teams.
Okay, which team? Okay, tell me which team, other than a team not quarterbacked by Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Burrow, Herbert, you think, or Jackson, who you think is gonna overtake those teams?
That's not my point. My point is they need to make sure that they stay there. There's going to be drafts. There's going to be people who come out. There's going to be free agents and stuff like that happen. Football is one of those sports where there's very few teams that stay on top consistently. But the ones that do stay on top do stay there consistently. That's why you have the Patriots, who have been at the top for the longest. That's why you have the Steelers, who are known for routinely making the playoffs, and even them don't even go that far or make it to the playoffs all the time. But when you think about it, there's not too many teams. Off the top of my head, what was it? The NFC is the one that changes more frequently than the AFC when it came to the playoffs, because for the longest you either had Tom Brady, Peyton Manning in the playoffs. It's very consistent as far as if you get that one dominant team. You need that one. As much as people hated the Patriots were necessary for the NFL to get where they were as far as the popularity, because everybody wanted to see somebody knock the Patriots off from being the top.
Well, I'm telling you, it's a quarterback-driven league, and you'll be hard-pressed to not see one of those teams quarterbacked by those young guys not in the playoffs in contention. And that's my point.
And I will say this. I will say this last point in regard to what you just said, T-Bone, about teams that don't have that same consistency every year. Look at Cam Newton. Look at Carolina Panthers. What happened to them? After 1 year, he ain't been the same since. So it's all about staying consistent. And with that being said, once again, this is your Wednesday night Sports Delight, the platform sports talk show. Joe, I know you're about to go ahead and sign off for the show. Thank you for your time. You have a great one.
You too. Have fun with the guests.
All right, will do.
See you, Joe.
There we go. That was Joe Bo. Once again, I'm your boy Smoooth, along with
T-Bone. That's me.
And he's back again, y'all. We got
Stull.
And up next, y'all, it is that time. Our special guest. I have had a lot of respect for this guy for many, many years. Heard him back in the day on doing Rams broadcast as a sideline reporter. He's been on 101 ESPN. He's been on 590 The Fan. He's been on WGNU. Man, I ain't heard that in a long time. And also 1380, taking it back to the day. he is a director of communication for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Cuckoo! And one of the main reasons why we got him on the show was because T-Bone and Stull was telling me we got to see about this guy. So I said, you know what? Say no more. I'm going to make things happen for my crew. And we got him. Look forward to hearing about his story, his upbringing from when he was a youngster to what he's doing present day. It is definitely an honor and a pleasure. This man also was, he also had a syndicated a weekly show, St. Louis Baseball Weekly. I recall that. We're going to discuss that more. But once again, it's an honor, a privilege to have the one and only. And he's also a big, big wrestling fan. Look forward to talking about that as well. Everybody, bring in the comments, show some love to the one and only Brian Stull. Brian Stull, how you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the introduction. I got to tell you, I've been listening like probably the last 30 minutes or so to you guys, and it's been killing me not to be able to talk. I've loved what you guys have been talking, giving each other some trouble, and I've agreed with a lot of what's been said. A couple times I've been like, wait, raising my hand like, yeah, let me jump in. So can we just replay the last hour's topics? And
hey, feel free, because before we get more into what's going on in your world, whatever we discussed earlier, let's talk about it now. So what's something that was going on in your mind during our conversations?
You know what? I'll start because you guys were just talking Super Bowl. And I'm so glad. I think, Stull, you brought up KC and Buffalo. To me, that was the Super Bowl. That game was so incredible. Man, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, they were so good to take nothing away from those opposing defenses, because I thought Buffalo and Kansas City, it wasn't the defense's fault. It's just that Patrick Mahomes, who we saw what happened in the later, in the next game, late in the game against Cincinnati, didn't quite have the same magic. But that game, Buffalo and Kansas City, that is one of those classics of all time. I just thought that was unbelievable. And for me, that was the Super Bowl. And in terms of being a St. Louis guy who had to watch the Rams win the Super Bowl, the way I get through all of that is I think of the people behind the scenes, because one of the things that we forget, and one of the things that makes any NFL, or for that matter, any pro sports franchise really valuable for a community, is those extra things they do off of the field. And there's a lady named Molly Higgins who you may have seen the Walter Payton Award when Big Whit was giving a speech. He gave a shout out to Molly. Well, she did tremendous things here in St. Louis. And there are a lot of people that are still in the organization that aren't players, that aren't coaches, that aren't ownership, that for, the 20 years they were here in St. Louis, they were part of our community. So, yeah, it's still painful to see, the celebration of Rams and Kroenke, that kind of stuff. That still hurts. I get all that. But I try and just focus on, like, you know what? I'm happy for the Mollies that are still with the Rams, that, they put in their blood, sweat, and tears into the organization, and it's a victory for them. So that's kind of how I navigate through it.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought up NFL honors, because I want to get everyone's opinion on this. Your thoughts on Dick Vermeil being elected to the Hall of Fame, finally. Thoughts on that? T-Bone, start with you first, and then Stull.
I mean, he was the Rams coach when they won the Super Bowl, and I know he had a history back with, what was it, the Eagles, back when during their time frame too. So, I mean, I think that he's one of those coaches that goes back where it seems like it should be deserved. Again, I'm not the biggest Rams fan in the world, but I was there in St. Louis during the time when they had their run, so it seems like it's deserved. I can't complain.
Absolutely, it is well deserved. We all love Dick Vermeil, man. In St. Louis, I remember him coming in 1997, and everybody was like, "Oh, he's a tyrant. He's a tough guy. He's going to be tough on the team." And then, I think the first or second press conference, you see him crying, like, it doesn't match up. And then he just cried all the time. So I'm like, okay, well, we don't see this tough guy that he used to be with the Eagles and things. But I think he kind of softened his stance but I mean, the players love playing with him, playing for him. And I know after he retired from the Rams the first time, he went on to Kansas City. And in Kansas City, he brought him to some success there. So. Yeah, and I'm glad that they're honoring him while he's here. You know, he's up in age, and I'm glad he's seeing it personally.
Right. Brian Stull.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. Dick Vermeil is not going into the Hall of Fame strictly because of what he did in St. Louis. We got to enjoy the Super Bowl victory that he coached, but that Eagles team was not good. It was bad. I mean, go watch that movie Invincible, the whole Vince Papale story,
Right.
and get that little glimpse of. I mean, they literally were taking walk-ons off the street. That's how bad the Eagles were, and he turned them around. Yes, he had help from a Wilbur Montgomery and a Harold Carmichael and everybody else there. Which, by the way, some of those guys wound up coaching for him later to speak to how much they loved the guy. We did see the tears and the emotion here in St. Louis from Dick Vermeil. But then the success he had in Kansas City, to me, I saw an online argument the other day. Somebody, just the arguments of why Dick Vermeil had not yet gone in, or actually the argument was about Torrey Holt not getting, there were too many Rams that were, from the greatest show on turf that were in the Hall of Fame, and that's working against Torrey Holt now, which that's a whole separate tangent we can get into later if you want. But, similar to Kurt Warner, what Kurt did here in St. Louis is incredibly special, but if Kurt Warner doesn't have the success in Arizona, he's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a real tough argument to just have that one Super Bowl win. If Dick Vermeil doesn't go on to have the success in Kansas City, I don't know that he's getting in. I mean, what he did in Philadelphia was great. What he did here in St. Louis was great, but it was that whole body of work that absolutely deserving. And, one of the things, a pet peeve of mine, is that Buck O'Neil never got to see his name in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I know I'm jumping sports, but if you're going to honor the guy, man,
nobody alive.
Absolutely. Exactly. And I mean, this is not the argument of the Hall of Very Good. You're talking about, yes, people are agreeing this is Hall of Famer. Get him in while he's alive so we can see that honor. Absolutely.
I had the extreme honor of meeting Buck O'Neil.
Oh.
In Kansas City when we visited in college, the Jazz Museum and the Negro League Museum. And it was funny because people didn't even recognize him. The guy was sitting there. He's got his, hat coat on. I'm looking at him like, and people are looking at my reaction and looking at this like, who's the old man? I'm like, this Buck O'Neil. What are you talking? And then, got his autograph and everything. So it was a special moment, man. It was like a few years before he passed too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So all I gotta say about Dick Vermeil is, as you were bringing up earlier, Stull, he's gonna be having the tears going, the aqueducts going during his Hall of Fame speech. So my question is, what's gonna be the over under in regards to how many times he got to stop doing his speech and wipe himself off and wipe the tears away before he keeps on going?
Let's see, what's gonna be the bigger over under, the tears or they're gonna have to mix in a couple bleeps, because especially when he gets emotional, he can't help it. But that's part of what you love about Dick Vermeil. He's very real. I mean, it's on his sleeve. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he mellowed a little bit when he came to St. Louis, but I don't think anybody that played underneath him would doubt his lack of intensity, whether it was here in St. Louis, Kansas City, or anywhere.
And then on the other end, another year goes by and Torrey Holt is not a Hall of Famer, which is a crime shame. A lot of people are saying, well, the Rams already have 6 guys already in the Hall of Fame, and why put him in too? It's, it was going to be an overload. But if it was a Cowboy or a Pittsburgh Steeler, no problem. But because it was a St. Louis Ram player, he's got to make his journey a little bit harder. But I just feel like once he gets the call, because he will get the call, it'll be that much sweeter. But it shouldn't have to wait. He shouldn't, have to wait as long as he is now to get into the Hall of Fame. And Brian Stull, I'm pretty sure Howard Balzer. He's like one of the main guys who talks about, represents Rams players in regards to Hall of Fame vote and trying to get them to persuade them or whatever. But what are your thoughts in regards to just this overall Hall of Fame process, and especially not having Torrey Holt right now in the Hall of Fame?
I think Torrey Holt's a Hall of Famer, so let me make that first and foremost clear. Torrey should be in. I hope that he is in sooner than later, that he doesn't have to wait forever, that he's not, some sort of old timer who can barely walk across the stage or doesn't even get to enjoy it. So I hope it's sooner than later. In terms of the NFL Hall of Fame process, part of it I like a lot. I love the fact that you've got the voters going to a room, you've got presentations being made, you've got debate being made. I think that if you ever wanted to be a spider on the wall, that would be one of the most fascinating conversations to watch and see the arguments that take place on that. So I wish that baseball and the other sports had some of that versus just mailing in the ballot or doing it online like they do now. That being said, man, it sure seems like there is a logjam of legitimate Hall of Fame talent that can't get into the Hall of Fame. So I don't know if they just need to expand the amount of players, make some sort of tweak to the the vote, the percentages, have one big election where like they need to kind of do a catch up, but not just Torrey Holt, but are you telling me Reggie Wayne wasn't a Hall of Fame? I mean, there's some other names that are on that list where you're like, these guys should be in, and it just keeps getting more and more backloaded, and there'll be that quarterback that comes along and gets in right away, and I get it, that's the sexier position, but there's some linemen that again, they're Hall of Fame worthy. Just because they're positioned, they don't get the same glory. Doesn't mean that they weren't any less talented or important at their position. And I just feel the NFL has fallen so far behind now in their Hall of Fame. Again, it's not the Hall of Very Good conversation. It's like everybody's agreeing, nope, these are Hall of Famers. The numbers work against you this year. The numbers work against you this year. We can't fit you in. They've got to figure out a way to fix that.
Got to.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Somebody like Devin Hester, just because he played a punt kick returner, oh no, he's not a first ballot. But when he was on the field, people kicked away from him. They did not want him to get the ball. He was dominant in what he did, and because he played kick and punt returner, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, go back a few years ago. I mean, actually, go back several years ago now. But you remember when Ray Guy finally got in?
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask people like who's the greatest punter of all time, they're like, oh, it's Ray Guy. I mean, there wasn't like any argument about that. Everybody talked about, if he wasn't the greatest, he was certainly one of the greatest ever. And year after year after year, and it's like, well, he's a punter. We've got to get this quarterback. We got to get this guy. And it was like, again, it's not his fault. He was the punter. He was the best at his job for a long period of time. And again, I think of the linemen. There's a guy who played for the Rams that also played for the Green Bay Packers, and he's got some hardware and the respect he had amongst his peers. What about an Adam Timmerman? I mean, every franchise has these guys that, they're worthy for their position. It's kind of like some of the, a Jim Hannafin, again, some of those contributors that other teams have. I just wish the NFL could find a way to allow more in. I don't think it would cheapen the Hall. I think it would still be just as special. I just think that their voting system right now, in terms of quantity, is overriding the quality that is out there.
Yeah, that's what happened with T.O. a few years ago with the logjam of players. That's when I first heard about it, was when they were talking about the logjam of like wide receivers out there that was, having a hard time getting into the Hall of Fame because of the rules and restrictions and everything.
Yeah. Alan Faneca had to wait for. So I mean, again, when you get to those like final 25, how about you make the case of why they should not be in? I'd like to hear that argument.
Ooh,
yeah,
right,
absolutely.
Maybe one big super class to kind of speed it up for everybody, and then
And not to change sports, but it kind of reminds me of like Yadier Molina. People trying to say years ago he's not a Hall of Famer. He's not. Like what? And how you brought up earlier, Brian Stull, that Sadal, how Devin Hester, he didn't have people kick to him because of how good he was. That's the same way with Yachty. People didn't want to run against him because they knew how great he was. It was the fear of having to even think about trying to run on Yachty. If people were more aggressive against Yachty, his numbers would be so astronomically better than what they are right now, in which it wouldn't be no doubt in people's mind. I know now that's changed. People probably say, okay, yeah, no doubt in their minds now. But if people were aggressive, things could have definitely changed in regards to how they perceive him numbers-wise, the analytics in regards to Yadier Molina's career.
And one of the key things that people bring up when they're talking about voting for the Hall of Fame is, was this person a game changer? Did this person dominate his position in the time that he played? Devin Hester checks those boxes.
Yep.
Why isn't he first ballot?
True. But yeah, so that's the Hall of Fame. Looks like a lot of organizations, mainly baseball and football, the leaders just don't lead right. Something needs to change in regards to both of these sports. Shouts out to the NBA because it looks like Adam Silver got that looking really good right now. So continuing on in regards to you, Brian Stull, before we get even further, we love to talk about our guests and their backdrop. So what do you have going on behind you right now? I saw the cacao on the wall, but I see some action figures. What's going on over there?
You know what? I got a little bit of everything in here. This is kind of I can't call it a man cave per se, but it's kind of the office. So yeah, I've got some Cardinal stuff up there, some bobbleheads. I've got a little bit of XFL stuff in there. I've got some Cardinals baseballs. I've even got Slobo from the Steamers days. A little bit of a mix in there. You definitely, let's see. I'll spin around a little bit for you. Got some U2 in there. We've got some Guns N' Roses in here. Some
the boy band.
Got the King. So, no, I got it all. Let's see. I don't have a WrestleMania 6 program, but I do have a Royal Rumble chair. So,
hey.
So
I had a WrestleMania 15 chair, but I parted ways with that one.
I gotcha. No, it's all good. So yeah, this is just kind of a little bit of everything, and got the handprints from the kiddos on the wall too. So it's a little bit, or that's over the other shoulder, I think. So back from the preschool days. So it's a little bit of everything. Some DVDs back from the wrestling days too. So it's all a little bit of everything.
Nice. So, as I said before, we're all about telling stories from the beginning to where you're at now. So let's go all the way back, kind of like that Jordan documentary. Anyway, all the way back. If you can just tell us, when would you say was that moment that you fell in love with sports?
I don't ever remember not being in love with sports. I grew up in St. Louis, so when I was little, Sundays it was getting home to watch wrestling at the Chase, and then I was riding my big wheel in the backyard. I had the big wiffle ball bat, and I was pretending to be Ted Simmons or Lou Brock. When I probably started getting in, and by the way, I was a messed up kid because I had big red jerseys, and I like Jim Hart, I like Neil Lomax, but I also like Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach. I was just messed up. And then was big blues fan. Brian Sutter was my guy. I got to meet him in 6th grade. Won one of those contests through Schnucks where he got to be honorary stick boy. And I remember getting to go down to the bench, meet him. He had the black eye and he had his teeth out, signed a stick for me. And I don't ever remember not loving sports. I realized in high school that my dream of being a Major League Baseball player was not going to be a reality. So I figured you probably need to focus on something else. And that's when, the idea of being like a Jack Buck or a Bob Costas. And by the way, I think it was you, Smoooth, who brought up Al Michaels. Yeah, I could listen to that guy read a phone book. He's one of those comforting voices.
Right.
I thought, I was like, hey, that's the direction I want to go. And the powers that be said, nah, you've got a face made for radio than TV. So I kind of fell into that direction. And one thing led to another here and there. And, wound up at 590 The Fan and brought the Stranglehold About, which is a pro wrestling radio show for those who don't know, and did that for 12 years. And then was able to work on the sidelines for the Rams for a couple of seasons. And then was back over covering the Cardinals full time. And when I was let go from 101 ESPN, started up St. Louis Baseball Weekly and got that out going. And then the XFL knocked on the door, and I got to work for the Battlehawks, which was an incredible experience. And now I'm looking for that next incredible experience, waiting to find that right move.
So would you say football was your very first love, or was it maybe wrestling?
It'd be wrestling or baseball. Be one of those two. Yeah, definitely wrestling or baseball. So that was
okay.
Yeah, that's again, how do you not? I remember the Cardinals leaving, the football, the Big Red leaving, and I didn't fully at that time appreciate just what it meant to have football leave a city. I think a lot of us had taken it for granted. I think the business community took for granted. I think fans did. And then when we didn't have football and we didn't get a team automatically back, we all thought that what it was like. And that kind of led to not the knee-jerk reaction, but obviously, you know, the lease and all that stuff that we don't have to get into that was created to get a team here. And I think that's why when the Rams left, when Stan Kroenke left, whereas before Bill Bidwell was kind of shunned, and people were like, "Good, here, we'll help you pack, get out of here." When Stan left, it was very different. No one wanted the Rams to leave, and we were hurt that he was leaving. And it was like, "Wait, you don't want us?" And I think that's why it stung and stayed with everybody so much longer. But you know, if the Cardinals were to leave, I just can't. I mean, I remember when there was.
Oh God! Don't even bring that up.
Right, just like that. Like I just couldn't imagine. Like, wait a minute. Well, the Cardinals can't because that's life. And you know, the Blues, the whole Saskatoon rumors. I remember when Mike Shanahan put that group together and kept the Blues here, being so grateful and that they were staying. So, yeah, it was baseball first. Wrestling has always been the constant along the way, and then hockey and football in that mix right there. But it's all St. Louis sports. I mean, just like you guys did over the last hour. You know, sometimes you're talking music or movies, but in the sports, it all just goes together in my mind.
Right. So I see that you are a proud alum of Fort Zumwalt North. Tell us about your time at Fort Zumwalt.
Hey, I am. I'm still proud alum of Fort Zumwalt North. Built on the north side. Proud of the Panthers, the green and gold. They made it Zumwalt North my senior year, which I'm still. You talk about not getting over things. I'm still a little upset as are several of my fellow alumni that we didn't get to just stay Fort Zumwalt. We wanted to be the next class out of Fort Zumwalt, not the first class of Fort Zumwalt North. But no, they've got actually. You know what? All the Fort Zumwalt schools. All the high schools are really doing some awesome stuff right now, but I love to see the success that North is having. You know, you see what they were doing in football, and I know in baseball, Zumwalt West and Zumwalt South were like, you know, they were both in the Final Four of baseball, and South was winning soccer, and you know, the West basketball team just won a conference, and they've got districts on the way. So I'm a very pro Fort Zumwalt guy. So live out in the area and got my roots here, and very happy to be out in the area.
And during your time at Fort Zumwalt, did you play sports?
I attempted to. Yeah, I wrestled my freshman year. You wouldn't know it now, but I actually wrestled at 119. That was so I didn't have to lose weight. See, if I could go back and do it all over, I would wrestle at 112 because I was wrestling at 119, but I could eat a full lunch and make weight easy. Like I just didn't want to lose any weight at all. So, you know, you get those guys that are bigger, that are like the 150, the 140s that are dropping down, cutting weight, and they're bigger and stronger. And they just, I was pretty much a doormat. They, you know, headbutts weren't allowed. Flying elbows weren't allowed. I was at a little bit of a disadvantage.
And I'm not sure if you heard me earlier, but our very own T-Bone, he is.
Whoa.
Go ahead on.
We'll get to that later. I want to hear his story first.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, we'll save that for later on in case you didn't hear it earlier. So just going back to high school, what about college?
Yeah, I went to Truman State, so I was up in Kirksville. So I didn't play any sports up there, but I'm a brother in Sigma Phi Epsilon, so that fraternity kept me busy and was involved in things. You know, both in high school and college, I found a lot of other extracurriculars, whether it was the newspaper, student council, you know, homecoming, Greek week, that kind of stuff. I was usually pretty busy doing things, and got involved in the media slant, doing some stuff, did some school plays, all that good stuff. But really, you know what, I'm a social person. So going to class, hanging out with people, that kind of thing. You know, I had to explain to my kids that, you know, back in the day, I've kind of become that get off my lawn guy, but back in the day,
in my day,
you had to actually pay money to call your friends who lived long distance. You couldn't just dial anybody or connect online like we're doing now. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I had to pay back Grandma and Grandpa to, you know, if I was talking on the phone for somebody for too long, I had to pay that money back. So being able to go to school and hang out to see your folks, see your friends, that was always good stuff.
And the other person had to accept the call too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, that way it was on them, not you, right?
Right. Ooh, those were the days.
Yeah, those were the days.
It felt weird. I don't know where it came from, but like thought about pay phones, you know, having to go to a pay phone and get a quarter or two, whatever, just to make a phone call. And now, you know,
but aren't you glad cell phones weren't around back then? Because I know I'm glad that cell phones did not exist back in the day.
I do.
Yeah, everybody's eyes are getting like, right, exactly. I'm glad there weren't cell phones then.
Man. and also Twitter and social media.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine social media back then doing like Mike Tyson days and Muhammad Ali and even Jordan back in the day, Michael Jackson. My God.
What? That's actually like, because I saw Mike Tyson said that, social media has, it's braving people up where they forget that they could get punched in the face for saying some things. And I remember my very first season covering the Cardinals, like one of my first trips down into the ballpark. And, it was kind of nervous because I was green. I was still just even trying to find my way around from the press box down to the field and all that kind of stuff. And I saw Mike Shannon, and I went up and introduced myself to him. And, Mike Shannon is as nice as they come. So he was gracious and talked to me for a couple minutes. And I said, do you have any advice? And he's like, hey, he goes, don't worry about it. He goes, just don't say anything on the air that you wouldn't say in front of their face. And that always stuck with me. And I see too many people now that they're on air or online or in print or whatever persona the case may be, that they can be very bold. But I always wonder, I'm like, would you say the same thing? Would you say the same thing the same way if you were actually standing in front of that person that you're talking about? I think you can still ask hard questions. I think you can still be direct. I think you can still hold people accountable. But I think that you need to do that with a level of respect that, unfortunately, social media has really allowed people, that everybody now has this platform where there's not necessarily that accountability. And it's unfortunate. I don't know how you put it back in the bag because it's already out, but that's really frustrating to me, just when you look around and see when people, are talking, and it's like, I really don't think you would say that if you had to stand across from the person and have that kind of conversation.
And then, as I posted earlier, Miss Williams, she said she had to write physical letters to her folks because call and collect was too expensive. There were no email or calling cards. So, them times. And then having to wait on Pony Express to deliver the mail.
Well, you know what? I think athlete signatures aren't the same anymore because nobody writes anymore. Everybody types. So, like, just even signing your own name, my signature has gotten worse. Just to sign a note for school or whatever the case may be, it's like, man, you know what? We don't write anymore, so people are forgetting how to do that. You don't see those cool signatures anymore.
Yep, and now you have DocuSign and stuff like that. So times have changed.
The technology that I think it's more convenient, but I don't think it's better. Is I remember I used to like going to the days of going to the video store and renting tapes and stuff like that, and there was something that was just different about that compared to, well, it's at your fingertips now. And yeah, sometimes it can be more convenient, but it's not an experience like it used to be back then.
Right. Yeah. No, I love my remote control. Trust me, because you can put that recliner back. I'm all about that. And I don't share the remote. I'm very bad about that. But, getting up and having to change the channel wasn't exactly the worst thing back in the day, right?
Yeah, I'm still buying up DVDs right now. Because one thing about streaming is, it's convenient, it's at your fingertips. But if they take away something that you like, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't watch it ever again unless you have the physical copy.
Mm-hmm. So, Brian Stull, you brought up earlier when you realized that you probably wasn't going to go pro in the sport that you loved, you got into broadcasting. So, you mentioned Jack Buck and you mentioned others. Who were some other influences and who helped you along the way as you were getting into radio broadcasting?
It's a good question because there's been a lot of people along the way. Jack Snow was a tremendous help. I remember going up to my very first Rams training camp. Again, I was sent up there with an assignment very specific that I was supposed to basically line up interviews with. I had a list of 7 or 8 Rams players. Toby Wright was one of them that I remember. I think Isaac may have been on the list. This was before Kurt Warner. Yeah, this was like Dick Vermeil's first or second season. And I went up there and I'd been told, go to the PR director and he'll help you out and everything. So I went in and I was like, okay, I'm here and I've got this list I need to interview. Boom, 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 and boom. And then, looked at me like I was crazy. He's like, I can't just get you all these guys at once. And Jack Snow put his arm around me and, pulled me aside. And then he's like, hey, I want you to come meet with me, whatever, 3:00, whatever, later this afternoon after practice. Took me aside up into his room and he gave me the lay of the land. It was like he just laid out. He was working on his game charts, getting all the players, all the game notes together and everything. But he explained like how the process worked, that, you know what, you don't come in and you ask for 10 interviews at once. You come up and you ask for like one or two, but you do it in a way that you're, you know, in sync with the schedule, which I didn't know how the football schedule worked then. You know, there's a flow to it. There's an order to it. So he helped explain all of that. And he pointed out some of these other people that were around that were like important to know, not because I had to interview him just then, but it was like, okay, this is so-and-so, and this is where he fits in the organization, or this is a guy who's an interesting story. And basically what I learned from Jack and what I saw, because I'm not the only person he did that for, Jack Snow was always somebody who believed that, you know, you're always as strong as your weakest link. And at that moment, I was the weakest link that was there. So rather than shun me, he's like, I got to build this guy up and make him stronger so that he can fit in the chain stronger, which I will always appreciate. I mean, he was an incredible guy, but just that, him going out of his way to help me there was huge. I remember a conversation I had with Rennie Knott out at Rams Park one day when I had an offer to leave St. Louis for, it seemed like it might be a better job or an opportunity to at least be a bigger fish. But sitting talking with Rennie about the opportunities that being in St. Louis, that, hey, you know what, you may not be the biggest name or the biggest station or the highest profile time slot, but look at what you're getting to cover, look at what you're getting to do, versus if you move, you're not going to have those same opportunities. It was just kind of one of those life conversations. And I think Rennie is probably one of the most underrated guys that has come into the St. Louis market, what he has done for our community. And I have got tremendous respect for him, transitioning from sports to news as he has done. Just I can't say enough about him. Brian Burwell never got enough love in this town. Brian Burwell was so smart, so worldly on experiences that he had gone through. And I remember I had some, at the time it would have been breaking news, or I had some kind of, I had some information about Sam Bradford being in St. Louis but not having the contract signed, but I couldn't reveal it because it would give away the source. And I was trying to work through the whole thing. And I went to Brian because I knew he would understand, and he did. And we were working together. We were radio colleagues, but even if we wouldn't have been working together, I knew that I could trust Brian, and he had the experience, and we worked through it together the best way to get the information out, but still protect the source and the integrity of everything. And again, I know that he was there for a lot of other people, and I think his voice, the stories that he would share sitting around talking, whether it was the station or the media room out at Rams Park or down at Busch Stadium, that guy had an incredible life. And I think, unfortunately, too many people in St. Louis never got to see that part of him, what he went through. Again, the life experience, what he grew up and saw firsthand versus things that, you know, people like me grew up and had no clue. I mean, and the people that he knew, the conversations he had, those are some guys that come to mind. And then, you know, when you say people who helped you, you know, again, all like the producers who, you know, helped do things, whether it was somebody who was running the board or, you know, I mean, you guys know you're putting together a show. You guys don't just show up for 2 hours and just talk. There's things that go in that are involved to put it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe some people do show up and you can kind of tell, like, wow, it looks like he just showed up and talked. But you guys are prepared. You've got your segments worked out. People that are working and talking with you about the topics and the research that you put in and all that stuff along the way. It's a huge list. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of people out there that contributed along the way.
Yeah, and then as you brought up Brian Burwell, I think about, you know, his show with Bernie Miklasz. I was on 1-to-1 ESPN. You know, great guy. You know, definitely unfortunate of his passing, but he definitely left a mark. Yeah. Same with guys like Joe Strauss, incredible guy. Very, very, very witted in regards to how he handled media and everything, but definitely was very well respected in the news reporting area. Speaking of, once again, radio broadcasting, as you were saying before, how you doing sideline reporting at the time for the Rams and doing things for the Cardinals as a beat writer. So I take it that journalism was also something that you pretty much gotten to know of or fell in love with. Is that correct?
Yeah. I don't know that I would say I fell in love with it. It's kind of, it goes back to, you love sports. And so I was around what I loved. And, you know, yeah, doing the radio thing, like actually whether you're doing the radio or you're doing TV or you're doing writing, whatever the case may be, it's not that 9 to 5 job. It's not just the 2 hours. I always loved it when people, were like, "Oh yeah, you work 5 hours a week," and I was like, "No, that's what the show is, or a day or 2 hours a day or whatever." But when you get home at 1 a.m. from the ballpark, or and you're having to do tuck-ins over the phone for the kids and things like that because you're away, all those things. You can't do it if you don't actually love like the sport, or I don't think you can do it as well. You've got to actually really love it. And it's the fact that I love baseball, or that I love football, or that I love hockey, or whatever the case may be. That's what it is, that you love wrestling, that, I was able to, there were times that the stranglehold was not making any money. It was like, you're kind of paying out of your pocket to cover things and do things, but it was that labor of love, that passion. And, people would say like, well, then why don't you stop? And I was kind of like, what? Like, it was just like, well, what do you mean stop? Like, what do you mean? You don't just stop it. I mean, some people do along the way, and, some people have been happier, other decisions they made, but I don't know. To me, it was never, I never got tired of being around the ballpark for like 12 hours or something like that. That was always like fun to me.
So what was your very first radio broadcasting gig?
I doubt anybody watching, listening to this now or tuning in later will remember, but back in the day, 95.5 was Planet Fun Radio. And it was a mix of kids' tunes. You had Disney tunes, you had the Muppets, you had Dr. Demento, and I was a lifeguard, host of the pool party with a tidal wave of tunes every hour coming your way. And that was my first gig. But I used that, and that was fun in a creative sense, that you were, playing songs for kids in the morning on the way to school, and doing that kind of thing. But I talked the station into letting me have a show to play on Saturdays, just like a half-hour show called Rapping with the Redbirds, and that allowed me to get into the ballpark. And I didn't get to go to every game. I didn't get to have a season pass at the time. I'd have to apply to the Cardinals and beg and plead, like, hey, can I come to this game, this one? And they let me in to kind of prove myself and get around. But I got into the ballpark, and I was able to start talking to the likes of whether it was Joe Torre, who was the manager at the time, and I remember Brian Eversgerd was actually a rookie. He's assistant pitching coach now, and Red Schoenitz was around. But I remember sitting on the bench with Tony Gwynn one time when the San Diego Padres were in town, and just talking baseball with him.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what? It was, yes, I was the lifeguard playing kids' music during the week, but I knew that sports is where I wanted to go, and so it was a venue to kind of do that. And then I worked at, I played classic rock, and I was at the station that played Hootie and the Blowfish for the very first time in St. Louis. It was out in Warrenton. It was V100, their country now. But I was doing that. But again, I was driving down to do Cardinal games. Just cover that when I could. And I was doing afternoon drive on a classic rock station, but I had Grant Fuhr call in because I wanted to talk some hockey, and I got my hand slapped for that one. But I was like, it's Grant Fuhr. What do you mean? He likes
right.
So it was always kind of, and then I wound up at 590 The Fan, which was obviously sports all the time. That's kind of where I needed to be. But but again, like I love rock music. I love hair bands and everything. So like talking music and sports, it's like, well, why not? Let's do it.
And it's amazing how you brought it up that in the radio playing tunes and everything. Right now, you're looking at 3 DJs.
Okay, awesome.
So with that being said, what was your DJ name?
You know what? I'm just Stully. So okay. I wasn't a big mixer. When I was at Planet Fun, I was the lifeguard. But otherwise, I've always used my real name. Born and raised in the Lou, so it's like that. Yeah, it's me. I'm here, and I'm proud to be here. I don't want to go anywhere else. This is like, it's St. Louis is what I care about. So I did work in a bar for a while, DJ. Again, I wasn't like spinning, mixing. I just played the songs kind of straight, but I was just Stully. But no, it was fun to do that. And by the way, I got to go with Prince for the best SuperBowl too, because not just was the rain falling, which was cool, but the dude was in high heels.
Right.
Like, you're playing guitar like that in high heels, going.
Right.
I mean, like, come on. And it was great to see Dre and Eminem and everyone. Like, I love the halftime show this year, and I thought it was representative of a much larger group of people than some people are trying to, because it was like, no, I've got Dr. Dre CDs. I've got Eminem CDs. I've got Snoop CDs. It's like, come on, there were a lot of people that a lot of people I think underestimated how big an audience was excited about the halftime show before we even got to see that it was epic, and it is one of the best ever. But I got to give the nod to Prince, because to do that in the high heels, I mean, yeah, okay. It was crazy.
And it freaking rained.
Yes, high heels in the rain. And he didn't get electrocuted either.
Right, because I had that on my mind in regards to him sliding on the wet pavement and then, boom, getting shot.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and wasn't it Steven Tyler with Brittany and Justin when they were throwing the mic back and forth on Walk This Way? I mean, that was, I mean, again, I don't put it as high as Prince and what we saw this year, but that Aerosmith one was a good one too.
I was thinking about that one when I was talking about like early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, there were a lot of good shows then.
Man, I can picture it now. Stull sitting in the back of a 25-foot-long Cadillac playing the Chronic. Rolling down the street.
You know what? He was man, there was one of the he went to LSU, one of the Rams D linemen. I'm blanking on his name now. He was up and he was talking about some music, and I chimed in on the conversation. He was like, come on, what do you know about that? And I was like, come on, you see me. And he was like, whoa, and so we wound up having a conversation about some songs, because at the bar that I worked at where I played the music, it's a place called the Rec Room. It's gone now. But on like a weekend night, you would have a mix of people. I mean, we had the Black Gangster Disciples in there. Sometimes you had the Saddle Tramps in there. You'd have, the wedding reception from across the street that came in, plus people that just wanted to dance. And so literally you'd be playing all kinds of music. You'd have Nelly and Ludacris, but then you'd also have Guns N' Roses and Neil Diamond, and it was a mix. And but guess what? It worked. I mean, everybody was able to still have a good time. But yeah, sometimes I've fooled a few people when they're like, "Oh, you listen to what?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? Family Affair, Mary J. I know that song. I play." It's like, yes, it's a good song.
Yeah. Ms. Williams says apparently Dr. Dre agrees because he did a cover of it with Aerosmith in regards to Walk This Way. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty dope, man. And tell us about your experience at 101 ESPN. I know that you was there during the earlier years, of course. Yeah. But tell us about your experience there. And, being around guys like Randy Carricker, who we had the pleasure of having guys like Randy Carricker on our show already, Tom Ackerman, just a slew of incredible guys like yourself to be on the show. Kevin Wheeler, I'm trying to think of his name, Mike Claiborne, we've had him on the show. So, we've been very fortunate and blessed to have great guys. So I know that these are guys that you also are very familiar with. Yeah. Just tell us about your time once again at 101 ESPN. And it's being to have a nice plethora of peers like yourself holding things down for St. Louis.
No, you know what? As you mentioned, it was the early years. I mean, it was the launch of 101. I was there before it actually went on the air. When they made the switch and they played the Christmas music starting in July, which freaked everybody out. But I thought that was a brilliant marketing ploy to draw the attention and get it, and then to work on the top 101 sports moments in St. Louis history and go. That was awesome. You mentioned Randy. I don't think there's a better point guard in St. Louis radio. And by that, I mean, Randy is probably the best that I've seen in my experience being around at being able to drive a show and be able to dish to get everybody involved in the conversation. It doesn't matter if it's, 3 people in studio or 10 people in studio, really masterful at that. And, he's a walking savant when it comes to St. Louis sports history. So, but you mentioned, just a lot of good guys there. Working at 101, like Mark Barr was a guy who we knew from playing days. He was always fun. And you talk about somebody who loves Dick Vermeil. I still remember when Vermeil came over to tell us about having to cut. I'm just blanking on his name. Lawrence Phillips.
Oh man.
And Dick teared up as he was starting to walk over towards us. And DeMarco was the guy who came up and he put his arm around Dick Vermeil before he even came over to talk to us, to just kind of help settle Dick down and get him ready. And then, Dick had a hard time getting through the conversation that he had to let Lawrence Phillips go, had to cut him because they tried to give him every chance and help him. But sometimes people just can't be helped. But being able to work alongside some of those guys. I mean, DeMarco was kind of like, I'm actually older than him, but he was kind of like that big brother who would always give me the hard time. He'd also but if somebody wanted to give me a hard time, then I know that he would be there. It was like I love the dude. But yeah, he was, and we were both wrestling fans, and we'd talk Motley Crue and everything else. But it was cool. Him and Bob Ramsey was there at the time when we launched, and Brian Burwell and Pat Paris. So it was a lot of fun to do everything. And at that time, that's when I was the Rams sideline reporter. So it was the first 2 years that Steve Spagnuolo was there. It was 2009, 2010 seasons. Unfortunately, the Rams didn't win a lot then. But it was still an incredible experience to be able to, I had been out. I was used to going to practice every day and covering the team, but the expectations changed. It was made very clear to me that it wasn't just covering the team, that you were expected to actually break news. So that's when you started getting to know agents and making those sorts of contacts, because, just going and holding the microphone and bringing back sound clips wasn't enough. So the expectation changed, and there was a whole different work level and pressure. It was good. Working alongside Jim Thomas was tremendous. It made me better because he set the bar in terms of Rams coverage. And man, he's slid over and does a great job on the Blues. But JT is a Hall of Fame writer in my mind. But when you're working alongside somebody, and it's kind of that friendly competition of like, man, if JT's got the story, then how come you don't? And that's basically how things were put to me. And so that was like the level that you're trying to strive, and just like, okay, even if I can break a different story that he doesn't have, it doesn't have to be as big, but just, you've got to be breaking stories, which that was the first time that there was that expectation of, you've got to break news, not just be there to share perspective and interviews and things. But that was different, and it was good, and it made me better. It was challenging at times, and it was frustrating at times, but it made me better. So that's what I remember about 101. And then shifting over to the Cardinals, I was moved over to the Cardinals at the start of the 2011 season. So that was an amazing journey to see that team, because I remember having arguments with people or discussions, and I would share how that, this team hasn't given up on themselves. Like, if you were there and you saw them on a daily basis, they knew it was a long shot. I mean, the numbers were what they were at the time, but the team wasn't folding up shop. And you've got a guy like Matt Holliday, who had been part of that big win streak in Colorado, and Kyle Loesch actually had been up in Minnesota, I think it was. He had won several games, and Albert wasn't going to quit, and Chris Carpenter, and and Lance Berkman, and then you had the latest version of the Memphis Mafia with Freeze and John Jay and Descalso and everybody, and Alec Craig, and it was like these guys were tight, and they weren't giving up, and it was like, guys, this is going on. And Albert shared that he was not done for the season with me. I wasn't able to like fully report that per se, other than to share that I had some good information that Albert would be back sooner than what some people thought. And then you watch them celebrate and make that history. I remember the beginning of the season, we did this segment called Hometown Heroes, and David Freeze was who I was interviewing, because again, St. Louis guy, and sat and talked with him, talked with his parents, some friends of his. It was just one of those big profile pieces. That was at the start of the season in spring training. And I had only spoken with his mom and dad over the phone. I hadn't met them in person yet. But I finally met them in person at the end of the season in Milwaukee when the Cardinals clinched during the celebration. They were there, and to be able to know that, his mom had told the story about David being in the backyard. And we all know the story now, but back in spring training before the 2011 season, it was like, wow, this is really cool. Yeah, Freeze, used to imagine he was hitting the home run in the World Series, and that was part of our story at the beginning of the year. And then to see that all come to fruition and play out at the end of the year, right. That was to be able to witness that, let alone be able to cover it and help share the stories that the players were sharing, was unbelievable.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
And you brought something up that we like to always ask guests like yourself, but who is that athlete that when you first met, you was like, wow, this is amazing. I know I've made it. And then second part is, who was an athlete that you have not met that you would love to meet?
I'd still love to meet Michael Jordan. I'd probably be nervous. I don't know what I would say to him, but it would just be like, you know, could I just like hang out for a little bit and just kind of be in the presence of Michael Jordan? Would be pretty sweet. I'll share this story with you guys. Probably one of the coolest experiences I had. This ranks up there for me. Was back in the 590 days. Nitro was coming to St. Louis. I think it was the one at the Dome. But Ric Flair was in St. Louis for the promotional tour. So he came in the studio and, you know, he did the interview, you know, with the guys, whoever was on the air. And obviously at the time I had the stranglehold going. So when Rick was done, I asked him, I was like, do you mind cutting a promo for my show? And he's like, oh, no, that's fine. So we went in the production room and all I wrote down on the piece of paper was the stranglehold with Brian Stull. And I gave him this little slip of paper and he looks at me and he goes, that's all you want me to say? And I said, I'm not going to tell Ric Flair how to cut a promo.
Right.
And
who are you to tell him how to cut one?
He cocked an eyebrow. He nodded. We hit the red record button. And all of a sudden, whoa, you got Brian, my God, Stull with the Nature Boy. And he cut it all. He did the jet flying limousine ride in. He did Horseman Territory. He did the woo. And then he turned over. He goes, how was that? And I just, wow. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now because he was so laid back, chill, and like, again, what do you? And I'm like, again, yeah, you don't tell Ric Flair how to cut a promo, and he cut the promos for me. He cut 3 promos that again. Like, I'm getting goosebumps on my leg.
I can hear that in my head right now. I remember hearing that promo.
Yeah, yes. that was Ric Flair, and that's how that went down. That's how that went down.
Yeah, spoiler. We know. we
know.
We listened to the show back then.
Well, hey, I appreciate that you did. Because that was a lot of fun, and I still I logged on to Facebook the other night just after WrestleMania because I just had to talk some wrestling with some people. Had to get some of it out. So, well, all right, not after the Royal Rumble. I'm sorry, not WrestleMania.
Right,
We're on the road to WrestleMania.
Exactly. I was gonna say these two guys and myself as well, but these two guys definitely gonna have some questions for you in regards to the stranglehold and in regards to wrestling very soon. Before that, though, once again, this is your Wednesday night Sports Delight, the platform sports talk show. I am in the middle, your boy Smooth. Up top, we have
T-Bone Funk.
Right below, we have
Stull.
And to our side, our special guest,
Stully.
There we go. I like that. A new member of the platform sport. So when you knew about or heard about the possibility of the XFL coming to St. Louis, and then we were blessed to have the Battlehawks, I'll go and say from my personal experience, I think that we killed it. Even before the season started, how they made a buzz around the city to really prove to St. Louis or just to the world that St. Louis is a football town. No matter what that guy, who has to pay in LA, no matter what he says. But just how, and you can add on to this if you like, but how much marketing that the Battlehawks group did during that time to get everybody ready for the XFL. They did incredible. And then for the great turnouts that happened at St. Louis at the Dome, we actually shot our commercial promo outside the Dome.
I had season tickets.
Yeah, for a game they had against Seattle, which happened to be their last game, I believe, before COVID. But I mean, the energy was just amazing. Hearing all the cacaws and cacaw the law, and the team was actually good too. So, what was your experience with the XFL and the Battlehawks?
Unbelievably awesome. There were 2 plans that were in place. There was the football plan, and Coach Jonathan Hayes and Trey Brown and everybody put together. I mean, again, the football team was good. I mean, we just saw Jordan Ta'amu, number 2 pick in the USFL. He's going to be a Tampa Bay Bandit now. But, they had a plan. They understood what kind of football team they wanted to have. And they went out and they had good players. I mean, we had good defensive player, good offensive player, special teams. I mean, Taylor Russolino and again, the play was really off the charts. It was good. And there's no doubt in my mind that that Tampa game, if the Battlehawks would have been allowed to play, that was going to be a victory. And then I know that the Dome, I know there would have been over 60,000 at the Dome to come back home. I mean, we hadn't even announced yet the Kurt Warner and the Isaac Bruce tributes that were going to take place. I mean, there was so much.
Man.
Are you serious?
Yes, that was all good. I mean, it was all like approved. Isaac was coming in. I mean, like everything was in the works. Bob Shannon was going to be honored. I mean, like we had all these things laid out that we hadn't announced, and then the pandemic hit and we got shut down. But so there was the football plan, the playing on the field plan, but the off the field plan was just as important. And Kurt Hunziker, who was our team president, again, he got it. He was the league itself, the XFL had a plan as a whole, and it was a good plan. Oliver Luck and Jeffrey Pollock and Vince McGinn, there was a plan, and there were some awesome people at the league that were awesome to work with, especially in the communications department. Stephanie and Brent, everybody loved it. But Kurt was from St. Louis, and he understood what needed and what would work here. And we never once made it about trying to show the Rams anything. That wasn't. There were a lot of people who talked about that, and obviously the Kroenke chants were at the games, but that never came from us. That was never what we were about. Our goal was simple. We're bringing football back to St. Louis. Born and raised. This is something that is day one right here in St. Louis. It is ours. It's not a team that was moved here, relocated, whatever. It's no, the Battlehawks are homegrown. They are ours. And that marketing plan included going out we went to 51 area high school football games. And when we first started going to the games, we didn't even know the schedule. We just went out. We weren't selling anything. We just went out to be like, hey, we're the Battlehawks. We're coming here. You're football fans. We're bringing football back to St. Louis. What do you want to hear? What do you want from a football team? We were taking feedback just to see. And it was, that's how it started. And then we got the schedule. We were giving out schedule cards. And then we got some T-shirts and all, and as it kept going, we kept giving it out. But I remember there were still the naysayers. There were some people that were like, okay, this is another stunt from Vince. And then, how'd that old XFL work out for you and everything else? And, there were some people who were very receptive to the idea. Before I even had conversations about working for the XFL, just the fact that as soon as it was mentioned that it was going to be coming back, it was like St. Louis has to have a team. And I was doing a radio show at the time, and it was like I started reaching out to get Oliver Luck on everybody just to express that St. Louis needs a team. This is the perfect fit. We love wrestling, but we love football, and we are a great sports town. You've got it. St. Louis has to be one of the teams. And then down the road, it was actually, Jim Hayes and Ben Frederickson and some of the other people were kind of like, hey, Stull, you kind of need to talk to the XFL. And the XFL kind of reached out, and the phone call came, and we started talking, working. But anyway, that plan from Kurt was on point about reaching out and being out in the community. And after that first game when we were in Dallas and everybody got to see the product on television, it exploded, because people all of a sudden realized, even some of those hardest naysayers, that they were like, you know what, I get it now. This is real football. And it was like, yeah, this is real football. I mean, yes, there's some innovations, the kickoff, some of the things were different, but it was real football. It was completely legitimate, and it was exciting. And I had told the players all along, from the very first time someone were coming to St. Louis, it was like, trust me, you are going to be embraced. All you have to do is give your best effort, and this town is going to love you, and there's going to be grandmas knitting you sweaters forever. I mean, we've seen it. You guys know. I mean, that's the way we are. When you're in our family, we will love you forever. And those guys were starting to get some sense of it. But I know when they pulled up on the bus and they got to walk in through the crowd into the Dome, and they were seeing everybody tailgating before that. That wasn't happening in the other cities to the same level.
Right.
It was a different thing, and they're seeing that. And then being down in the guts before everybody ran out, man, it was emotional to see the team fired up and running out. And those guys, it was huge for them. I mean, some of them were used to playing in front of 50, 60,000 people in college, but then they had just played in front of, 8,000, 10,000, whatever it was in Dallas. And I don't mean that as any insult to them, but there was a big difference. But even though it was only the 27,000, whatever it was that day in St. Louis, it sounded like it was 100,000. I mean, it was huge. It was loud. I know walking out on that field, knowing what it meant to have football back in St. Louis, that's it was special. I looked up at the crowd and I had to look down because I couldn't, because it was too much. It's hard to talk about now because we know it meant a lot. It brought St. Louis together.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, man, there's so much divisiveness today. When you're in a locker room, you've got people from all walks of life, and it doesn't matter. You're wearing one uniform and you're going out with one objective. You're holding hands with that guy next to you for the team prayer. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what skin color. And to have that one team going out, to have our community together cheering and to be rewarded, to show what we were all about, man, that is one of the coolest experiences I have ever had in my entire life.
Yeah. And Sadal,
Yeah,
you can add on to it if you like.
I was there. I was there that first game. And it reminded me so much of the very first football game I ever went to. It was 2003. It was the Rams and Vikings. And that happened to be the day Marshall Faulk just went off. And I remember how loud that dome was at that moment. And then flash forward to the first Battlehawks game, even though the top part wasn't open yet, they had that energy was there. It reminded me of the Greatest Show on Turf days when everybody was excited about football and it was basically maybe fall in love with the Rams that, when they were here initially. But that being there, that first game really sowed the seed of, when it comes to the XFL, this is my team. And it was a special moment, man. I actually recorded it. And I still have it. And man, I can't wait for it to come back.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. And the there were, I think, wound up 23 of us at the time when everything was stopped that were on the office side. Man, everybody busted their tails. We were all on the same page. Again, I'm going to credit the leadership because the team that Kurt put together, but you'd be there at 1 a.m. working. You weren't there by yourself. There'd be 2 or 3 people there that were right next to you doing their thing. And across the board, like we still stay in touch. I still stay in touch with players and stuff too, but the team that was behind the team, stay in touch. It's special. And I really do hope, I wish I had breaking news for you guys to share about, hey, the XFL is going to be back here and the Battlehawks are this and that. I don't have that. I hope, just like everybody else, that the Battlehawks are back in St. Louis at some point, because we know how much St. Louis loves and would support it. But regardless of what happens in the future, yeah, it's one of those moments. I remember the night when Wayne Gretzky was introduced and literally the building was shaken. That was right there. I remember when Nelly brought out Corey Spinks. That was an unbelievable moment. But you know what? Obviously, the World Series, like those nights. I mean, I remember trying to do call-ins from Rams games, and you had to put yourself on mute because it was so loud until you had to just barely listen, and then you would just go and give your report, and you couldn't even hear. You were just giving it kind of blindly because it was so loud. Greatest Show on Turf, and the Cardinals and their World, and then the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, but that Battlehawks experience ranks right up there. I mean, it's right up there. In a lot of ways, it's probably even more personal because, again, it was very much a healing process, I think, for a lot of people.
And it's crazy about Corey Spinks because we had him on our show too, and we played his intro with him and Nelly. Just go back to that.
Nuts. Yeah.
Oh my God! And it was just chills watching it, and then just seeing how he reacted to the video, and then him just reminiscing about that moment and how I always say this. Yeah, he had the fight against Zab Judah, but everyone talked about the intro going into the ring more than the actual fight itself.
Well, if the fight would have ended differently, then maybe we
exactly.
And then the big brawl afterwards. That was scary.
Right.
That went down. I mean, man, and I'm talking about the ladies who were fighting. That's what was scary with it also. But no, that intro was still, yeah. And you know what? Is Corey? I haven't talked to Corey in forever, so I don't know how long he was on the show. I hope he's doing well these days.
Oh yeah, he's out there in Florida, living the life. It's probably been about a good year now since I had him on the show, But yeah, doing great, staying healthy, still staying active, doing things for the community. So he's
Good.
definitely doing well. Once again, this is your Wednesday night sports delight, the platform sports talk show. Almost 5 years, y'all, coming up in April. Consistently every Wednesday, you will not see another show like this. Nothing but great conversations, and it doesn't change now with our special guest, Mr. Brian Stull. And speaking of Brian, we have another Brian that I'm going to go ahead and bring onto the show because he's a coach of at St. Mary's University, St. Mary's High School. He coached Yuri Collins, as we all know, from the Billikens, doing his thing right now. But he also, just like all of us right now, Brian Stull, T-Bone, Sadal, he loves wrestling as well. So I see you want to talk to Brian Stull, while we have him, and he jumped right on. So, Coach BT, also part of the Man Cave. What's going on with you, brother?
Fellas, how y'all doing? Good to get a chance to talk to you guys tonight.
How you doing, Coach? I like your shirt.
Oh man, appreciate it. Yeah, I had to break out the whole NWA. I actually went to the they had a show here at the Chase a couple months ago, so got a chance to go check that out, man. And that was like history in the making. Get a chance to see some old school wrestling at the Chase being brought back to St. Louis. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what's up, man. So, BT, thanks for joining us short notice, but I figured you would appreciate this upcoming segment. So, speaking of which, I know that you had a cancellation tonight because of the weather. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's getting nasty out there. And to be honest, I mean, this towards the end of the year, we start playoffs on Monday, so I don't need any guys twisting ankles or coming down on somebody's foot, back injury, anything like that. So we want to be as healthy as possible going into next week. So we start off playing Rockwood Summit Monday at Vianney High School. So that's going to kick off our playoff run. So
that's what's up. And as I said before, man, best of luck to you and other schools and coaches out there doing their thing for the Lou, making things better for kids, man, to grow up and be, respectable young men and women. So shouts out to you and to your team. Once again, starting next month, the Man Cave, as you see on the screen, hosted by Stanton. We got Sadal, got T-Bone, got Richard Cash, we got BT, we got Brendan. Brian, what's your thoughts, man, on the Man Cave coming up next month?
Nah, man, I've been kind of prepping for it. I was telling a couple folks today, like I got to get caught back up on all the world of sports, man, because I want to be able to chime in and throw some interesting conversations and some interesting things out there with guys that I know they up on. Every time you look up, they up on every sports event that's going on. So I got to get caught up to speed, on a lot of different things. I'm gonna be able to speak my little parts. But at the same time, I'm looking to learn a lot from these brothers too. So excited about that.
Nice. So once again, that debuts next month, every last Wednesday of the month. I'm telling you, it's going to be electric. So with that being said, Brian Stull, we had our big final show of the year last year. And one of the questions that I asked in the segment was, who was a guest that you would love to have on our show? I believe it was T-Bone that brought up you, Brian Stull. And then when we mentioned it a little bit more, then Sadal was like, "Oh yeah, I got to be on that show." So fellas, T-Bone and Sadal, what about Brian Stull was it that y'all wanted him to be on the show so much?
I'll go ahead. So, Brian, let me take you back to this would have been 1997. I guess would have been the time frame. A kid who loved wrestling growing up, starting in '88, going to that time frame, who sometimes didn't have cable or sometimes didn't have a TV. And I remember looking in a phone book one time and finding out that there was these like local hotlines and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, they got a wrestling hotline local? So I called it because you didn't have to pay for that one like the WCW hotline. So I called that one, and I remember they would give like some generic news or stuff like that. They would talk about local wrestling, the MVWA back then. And then I remember hearing this thing about the stranglehold, and I was like, what's the stranglehold? The radio? never listened to the radio, but you know what? I was like, well, don't have TV today, so Tuesday night, all right. So I checked out the Stranglehold and was hooked instantly. Started listening to the Stranglehold every week, and it was around April of 1998. You were doing a trivia back then for some tickets for a May 1998 house show, and you were doing trivia. The question was, what year did Andre the Giant make his professional wrestling debut? Little kid who didn't have TV called the Stranglehold over and over and over, called, tried to get in as fast as I could, finally got through, got on the air, and answered the question and got tickets to his very first wrestling show. And that was me. I called into the show, got tickets to my first wrestling show. And Brian, it is thanks to you that I got to see that live and in person, not just on the screen, not just on the magazines, not listening to the radio, but I got to see that firsthand. And that was the day that I decided I want to do this. So years later, graduated from college, moved down to Orlando, and said, you know what, I really want to do this. And then I started training with the Dudley Boys at Team 3D Academy, trained to wrestle, and, you know, wrestled locally down here in Florida, did a couple things with Impact, or I guess it was TNA at the time. And then finally got a call to do some stuff with the WWE. No, I never got signed or didn't do anything like that, but I got to do the stuff that I wanted to do as a kid. And you know what? I always wanted to thank people who were instrumental in helping me get to the things that I wanted to do. And you may not have known it. You may not have known the impact that that show had for this little kid growing up in St. Louis who didn't always have TV, who couldn't always see the stuff live on Monday nights. But that day was the most important day as far as me deciding to learn to wrestle. So I wanted you on the show to thank you for that show that you did on Tuesday nights that, you know, helped me all that time. And I really enjoyed listening to the show.
Thanks. That's awesome. That's awesome. The Stranglehold was always supposed to be a show for the fans, by the fans. I mean, I'm a wrestling fan. I never was shy about that. It was trying to provide access to the wrestlers that, you know, the stories that we love, to bring it up close. And I mean, I was more like, I'm humbled. Like, thank you for sharing this, for bringing me on to tell me that. That makes me feel great. But I'm like so excited that you followed your dream, that you got to wrestle, that you were inspired, and that you were working with Bubba and Devon, and that you went farther than so many people. I mean, you made it happen. It doesn't matter if you got signed or not. The fact that you did some stuff with Impact and WWE, that you even got between the ropes. I think that's awesome that you were able to like live that dream, and that you're still a wrestling fan, obviously. I mean, no, that makes me feel really good, because sometimes you feel, I mean, I'm sure you guys know just from your experience today, sometimes you kind of feel like you're in a little room by yourself. When I was doing the Stranglehold, I never felt like I was by myself, because that phone would ring. You know, later people would email and that kind of stuff, or they would come down to the rec room for the pay-per-view parties, or if you'd be at an event, you'd see some people. And that's what's awesome, that even though, oops, sorry about that, guys. You know, I haven't done the show since, I don't know, well, 101, since I moved to 101 with the, you know, I couldn't do the Stranglehold there. The fact that anybody even remembers the Stranglehold still that's not lost on me. I incredibly appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. Let me here. You know what?
No problem. I'm sure I actually still have a couple of cassette tapes with the Stranglehold on it somewhere.
Well, you know what? We'll connect up, because I've still got some Stranglehold T-shirts. So I think any of you guys, I got you. I got you.
Hey, okay, yeah, we'll make that happen after the show. So definitely hold tight.
We'll do that. So thank you all.
Man, you know that, you know, I can't top that story, you know. But it was surrounding that show was a part of my memories, you know, growing up, you know, in middle school, because you know, I didn't really have a lot of friends in middle school. You know, I was the outcast, the nerd and stuff. But I remember I was in middle school and I ran into T-Bone and I made some kind of a wrestling reference. I thought I was the only one watching it. And I just seen his eyes light up and he just started talking about wrestling. I'm like, oh man, you watch it too? And then that basically formed our friendship through wrestling. And one of the things was, you know, you gotta listen to the Stranglehold. T-Bone was the person that got me on. Hey, did you hear the Stranglehold last night? You gotta hear the Stranglehold. So it was required listening for me on a Tuesday night to listen to it. So on the next day, we had something to talk about at school. Like, hey, you listen to Stranglehold? Yeah, he talked about this. Yeah. So that was just like that show was woven into my memories as far as the things I remember fondly of that time period. You know, we talk about 97, 98. And so I always enjoyed the show. And you just sometimes when you're doing things in the moment, you don't realize how much of an impact is it going to make on people. And I'm so glad that we were able to express that to you, that, you know, thanks for the show and thanks for putting that on and how much it meant to us. It's special.
Well, I'm saying thank you to you guys. Sharing that means a lot. Hearing that means a lot because it was definitely a labor of love at times. Like, there was never any lack of love for the show and the support, but sometimes there were some battles to keep it on the air. And believe it or not, it's going to be 25 years this September since the show launched, since the Strangle.
Wow.
I mean, we went 12 years, and so it's been actually off the air longer than it was on, but it was 25 years ago, and I still have most of the interviews. There were some that got lost, but I tried to tape. I mean, I've got cassette tapes, I've got some mini discs, I've got some just tried to save as many of the conversations because at some point, you know, there's a faster way to transcribe some stuff. I'd love to get some of those conversations down because the stories that the wrestlers shared, and that's what was so awesome, I thought. I mean, like, there were a couple things that were really awesome about the show. One, conversation where we are all just talking. You know, everybody got to have their opinions and we could discuss, like, this is what should happen or how could that happen or, oh, absolutely, that was right on point. You know, we all had our opinions that we got to discuss. But I always loved it when we had one of the wrestlers on and he got comfortable and just started sharing with us. And kind of like you guys are doing with me, you know, we've talked however long right now. It feels like I've been talking 5 minutes with you guys because of how much fun we've had. And, you know, some of those wrestlers were kind enough. I mean, you know, Roddy Piper was on for like an hour with us the one time. And Macho Man, you know, put his fiance at the time, now his late wife, his widow, on, and she talked about the pink bunny slippers that he had. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, get her off. And, you know, I mean, we had Diamond Dallas.
Pretty good.
DDP was on before, like when he was on the way up, you know, I mean, when actually he was the people's champ before The Rock got it. And actually, you know, The Rock had like 4 different personas while we talked to him at different times. And, you know, obviously there were the big storylines and, you know, whether it was the Montreal Screwjob or the Monday Night Wars, but, you know, when the guys were just really able to just kind of talk and, you know, like, you know, Ric Flair being sort of, Kevin Nash was great to talk to, but Edge and, you know, having a conversation with Booker T about some of the politics at the time in WCW. And, you know, I mean, and then Impact TNA was so great. I mean, there were some nights when literally guys would just kind of pass the phone around and back to talk because they were wanting to hype their Wednesday show. And, you know, they didn't mind taking some phone calls and being able to do some of that. And like, that was always fun. That was, you know, whatever else was going on, it was always like, well, no, the Stranglehold has to happen. And some people were always like, you know, some of the, when I say some people, I'm talking about like some of the different bosses from time to time were like, okay, well, you need to give that up and focus on this. And it was like, are you kidding me? Like, no, you don't understand. Like, it's wrestling. And then eventually I was like forced to, like, I lost the fight, couldn't keep it going. But the fact that anybody even still remembers it and that it affected you guys, thank you. That's awesome.
I want to make a bold suggestion.
Yes, sir.
you know, radio is nice, but you know, in 2022, you know, got these things called podcasts.
Boy, we think alike.
And you
I've
know,
thought about it.
possibly, you
It's been
know,
suggested, but
I
here's
know,
my
off
fear.
I know of a good person, a host of a podcast that can do a wrestling show, and a co-host
my
over
fear.
there that can do
No,
something.
you're like I love it. I'm not but here's my fear. Much like ECW, when it was brought back, it wasn't the same. And when I did the Stranglehold, I didn't have kids. I wasn't, coaching Little League baseball and youth hoops and everything. I watched every wrestling show that was on because I wanted to. I watched it. I didn't miss any of it. Also, at the time, there weren't, there's a lot of former wrestlers that are doing podcasts and shows now.
Right.
And they're awesome. And I mean, you know what? There's still some contacts that are out there. New relationships can be developed, and ones that you haven't talked to in a while can be cultivated, brought back. But I don't know. I don't want to be able to fall short of what we did before. That's the bottom line. If I can't give the same commitment that I did before, if it can't be as good as what it was before, I don't want a watered down version. I don't want to have to make excuses and be like, yeah, well, and that's why I haven't done anything, because it's come up from time to time, and it's just like, again, it was yeah, that's what it is.
I have a suggestion for you offline, but I'll wait until the show is over.
All right, yeah.
But
And,
go ahead.
Go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the interviews that sticks out in my mind, for some reason, I can't remember the exact context of it, but with BT wearing that NWA shirt down there, I remember you talking to Larry Matisick back on the show, and
it was awesome to me. Again, you talk about people who helped me along the way. Larry was incredible. The wrestling, it was just an incredible man, incredibly gracious, generous, and absolutely awesome. Sorry to interrupt.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, no, that's when I always heard about wrestling at the Chase, and still to this day, even with family members who were in St. Louis at the time, they would still talk to me. I had my great uncle was just talking to me about wrestling at the Chase when I was on the phone with him the other day. But that's when I got to learn more about it. And I want to say that when he was on there, it was around the same time that they did the Reflection show on KPLR that aired on the weekend. Probably after the what was it? Probably Metal or Jacked, one of those shows. They did like an hour-long Wrestling at the Chase special on KPLR. So that one sticks out. I also remember I remember you talking like Al Snow or the Road Dogg, The Rock.
Yeah.
I remember a bunch of those things, because I listened to it more when I was between middle school and high school. When I went away to college, the internet isn't what it wasn't what it is now. So, being in Kentucky, I couldn't hear all the time. I would, get every now and then, like if I was in St. Louis. But yeah, I tried to listen to that show as much as I could and seek it out.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Larry was great. And you know what? Again, those wrestlers, I think once they saw, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, if a guy just wanted to stay in character and cut a promo, that was great. He could do that. We always gave them room to promote whatever they needed to promote, whether it was a DVD, a book, an upcoming show. But if they wanted to go a different direction, if they wanted to, I think they saw there was always a respect there. But I know some people laugh at this, but I think you can be intelligent. I think you can be smart. And be a wrestling fan. I don't think you have to be dumbed down. I don't think you have to have your intelligence insulted. And I think once guys kind of saw that was the approach where we were coming from and wanted to get to know them, and then they were comfortable and talked, that's when a lot of the good stuff came out, and you were able to kind of discuss things and see and, trade some ideas around, and they would share things, and we got to know them, and it all benefited because I guarantee you, I can't think of anybody. I remember with the exception of one time when we were live down at, I guess it was Savas Center at the time. We were doing one of our pre-Raw or just house shows, and Chris Jericho was a guest, and he stayed in heel mode the whole time, which was okay. But because that's what he was doing, it was okay. But I remember there were people who were upset because they felt like he had been disrespectful to me because I always played it straight. I wasn't. to me, it was more important to put them over than to try and put myself over. I'm not the character, that's not me. But other than that, like, I think anytime anybody was on the show and you listened, you had to feel better about that person and be a bigger fan of them, which means you're going to want to watch them in the ring more. You're going to want to buy their merchandise more, all those sorts of things. And I think a lot of guys understood that relationship, that this was a great way that they could connect with fans, and it's beneficial for all parties.
What do you say to people, and T-Bone, I'm pretty sure you have a great answer to it as well. Maybe you as well, BT. But what do you say to people who say, oh, man, wrestling is fake?
Okay, well, guess what? So are movies on TV, but you still watch the 2 hours and you get fired up at the end. I mean, Tom Cruise isn't really a pilot in Top Gun, but loved the movie. Sylvester Stallone didn't really defeat Apollo Creed. I mean, but it was a movie. You get caught up in the story, you enjoy it. You can't fake gravity just because it's predetermined. I mean, it's still real. Those are real people, and it's real emotions that get involved. So enjoy it. I mean, so what? You pay money to go to the theater, right? I mean, when you go watch Hamlet, is that actually real that he got stabbed? I mean, come on. It's that to me is just like a lazy argument. Like, okay, whatever. That's great if you feel that way, but what TV show are you watching on TV? Because is that real right now? So
I agree 90%. The 10% is, if somebody's watching a wrestling show where it's grounded in reality, and they're like, oh, that's fake. It's like, well, yeah, just like you said. Well, every show that you watch pretty much, except for some sporting event, is it's a show. The only time where I'm like, well, I don't know what to really say is when wrestlers as ourselves make it, where we're not treating it as if it's real, and we're not treating it as, I don't have a problem with people pointing out things that look obvious. It's when people are trying and they're trying to make it like a show be a show. That's one thing, but it's when guys go and beyond and do silly things or completely unrealistic things where it's like there's certain points where even I'm like, well, I don't know what to really say.
Well, that's where I get into don't insult my intelligence.
Exactly.
Because again, I am willing to suspend belief. I'm willing to buy in, but make me want to buy in. And I understand that there's different audiences. What it takes to get a 10-year-old to buy in is different than what it takes to get a 50-year-old to buy in. But to me, there should be a happy medium. And that's where I think that, again, everyone should be able to enjoy it. And it doesn't mean it has to be perfect all the time. Not everybody. I mean, that's part of what we discuss, things that you like. That's why there are different wrestlers. I mean, remember The Rock talking about how, he was that flavor that everybody liked, because some people like chocolate, some like vanilla. He was sharing that back then, but it's true. But and he is honestly one of the most charismatic individuals I've ever met. Like, that's legit. He's got that energy to him. But that's where I put it on like the creative team, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, sometimes there's executional errors, which, to be honest with you, like when Kofi didn't succeed at the Royal Rumble, I love Kofi Kingston, but I'm glad that he didn't succeed. Whatever that move was that he was going to do when he leaped off, because it reminded us that, like, guess what? He is human, and what they're doing is difficult. And, he shouldn't be able to do it every time. I mean, I know he was disappointed and everything, but guess what? That's the reality. That's something that, like, I can forgive, right? Like, I didn't even have to forgive. It was like accepted. Some of those crazy sometimes where you're scratching your head like, come on, really? Again, don't insult my intelligence, which some people want to scoff at because, like, well, wrestling, like, yes, wrestling can be smart and enjoyable. There's no reason it can't go hand in hand.
Yeah, and even with even just me being young, man, I just fell in love with wrestling with one for the athleticism. I mean, everybody wanted muscles. Everybody wanted to be big and strong. I mean, you played with toys, you played with He-Man dolls, you played with all of these different toys. And so to see a product like that on TV, I mean, that brought me in. And then and it goes back to what we talked about with creative, like the storytelling. I mean, it's just like literature. If you put in like one of your favorite CDs, or you listen to Biggie Smalls or Tupac or something, and it's like real fascinating stories that go along with the rapping and the different things like that, that brings you in. Wrestling is the same thing. The storylines. Like, you can't sit and tell me that the mega powers, that whole story and how long it took for that story to play out. Like that's one of the greatest stories of all time being told throughout, just storytelling. So I just think that right there, plays a big part into, something that I fell in love with. But like kind of what Brian said, like don't play with my intelligence on things, and it should be a happy medium in between,
Yeah. I mean, like if we look at WWE right now, on one hand, I understand some of the circumstances of why they decided to shift Becky Lynch. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I think it's been a mistake because I think people still want to cheer. They're not accepting her as the heel, and it's not because she's not doing a good job of it. And I understand maybe they were lacking and they're trying to build up Bianca or somebody else. Still don't think it works. But you know what? When you look at the investment that Roman and Brock and Paul Heyman in the middle, that's been an incredible story. That's been intelligent. It's the different chapters, how the Usos got broken down to form the tribal chief that, they had to finally, have it literally beaten out of them that they acknowledged Roman. All those different levels and layers of it were great. And then you talk about, you want to mix in some real emotion, Becky and Charlotte, what they've got going. Anytime those two ladies step in the ring, it's like, whew. And now even Charlotte versus Ronda. It's like, guess what? I know Charlotte's a heel, so to speak, but I know there's a lot of wrestling fans that are still going to be cheering for Charlotte because Ronda Rousey, not that she's done anything wrong. She got the respect, the homage to Roddy Piper to be Rowdy Ronda. Ronda's a heel. She is a heel. She's never going to be fully accepted in the wrestling community, my opinion. Man, if you had Becky face going against Ronda Rousey right now as the heel, I think it would be crazy business right now. Even if it was the three of them again. They're not doing it. I don't understand why. I'm sure they have their reasons. I'm not in the room, but that's, again, where the intelligence kind of gets mixed in with this whole big-time Bex thing. I'm like, I saw the crowd firsthand. There's still people who want to cheer for her. They're not buying into this thing because we know that's not who she is. And who she was before as the man, that was just an amped up, ramped up, real Becky Lynch who had paid her dues through the house shows, shaking hands with everybody, earning that love. And it's like people want to see her continue to be pushed in that direction. It's, but it is what it is. So I'm accepting it. She's doing a great job trying to be the heel. And I do love Bianca. I think Bianca's fantastic. I'm just not invested in that feud, whereas I would be in some of the other ones.
Yeah. And I know that we recently and you had the chair from a Royal Rumble. So is that the one that just happened last month?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I know BT, you went to the Royal Rumble. So how was that experience? We start off with BT first, then you, Brian. So.
Man, I got my chair too, man. So I was excited about, man, just going in there and just sucking in all of the experience of just being there firsthand. One of the big major pay-per-views, here in St. Louis, and then it's Royal Rumble. They're gonna break out all of the surprises. So just waiting for that music to hit. And one thing that stood out for me, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but the music has kind of shifted a little bit because it's just like once you hear someone's song and it hits, the crowd goes crazy. I just think it's a problem now with some of the music, the entry music, and then this switching it up. But other than that, it was a great experience. Seth coming down and paying homage to the Shield. That set it off right there. Once that happened, I was like, yeah, we in for a special one. So yeah. I didn't like how it kind of played out when we kind of already knew what direction it was going with Brock. Once we saw that it was a little finish with Roman, but other than that, it was just kind of like everything was kind of expected with Brock winning. But other than that, it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that whole Seth entrance because I thought that was brilliant. When they first moved Seth over to challenge Roman, it was kind of like, really, where is this coming from out of the blue? And it was like, why? But when he actually came out with that, when the Shield music hit, it was like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I was invested. It was that Foley thing. Like now I get it. Like they had their plan, and the fact that they stepped away from that, I know they can go back to it. Because Seth is right. He's got permanent residency now in Roman's mind for a playground anytime he wants. But that was incredibly well done. That was smart. That connected dots, that tied things together and made sense. And I know some people were disappointed that there weren't as many surprises at the Rumble, but being there in person, yeah, it was tremendous. I had a great time. My 10-year-old, he loved it. I thought the crowd was huge for Matt Riddle. Like, he is over big time. The bro chants were like through the roof, and I hope that the right ears heard that and do the right things with him. But yeah, it was. It's always different when you're in person versus watching on TV. I went back and watched it just it was that Roman Seth match when it looked to us like Charles Robinson picked his arm up and put it on the rope, and it was like, wait, what? It didn't make sense in person. Watching it on TV, the way it was like, oh, okay. Again, it didn't quite, but it was, the Royal Rumble experience was fantastic here in St. Louis.
I saw it on Peacock, and the first thing I saw when they first opened and they showed the dome, I was like, man, that dome looks nice. And everybody likes to complain about it. I'm like, well, they knew how to dress it up. So, I felt like I was in the minority when I was, even hearing some of my friends talk about it down here. A lot of people didn't like the event as a whole. And for me, I don't have a problem with stars being stars. So like with Brock, losing in the match and then going into the Royal Rumble and winning it, I didn't have a problem with that. Ronda Rousey coming and winning, I don't have a problem with that. Right. And I had somebody who asked me, well, why don't you have a problem with Ronda Rousey coming in towards the end and winning? I was like, well, let's take this and put this in a real scenario. I said, so you mean to tell me that if Ronda Rousey were to actually get into a fight, and again, I know that there's a lot of holes in the argument of can you actually throw people over the top rope, but let's just put this out there, like there's not many of them that could individually, if it were an actual fight, beat Ronda Rousey. So why would it be hard for me to believe in a story that she couldn't, win that match? Why would I believe that if Brock Lesnar got into the Royal Rumble last, that he wouldn't win it when he went in, 2 years ago, starting at number 1 and went to like number 13 or 14 or something like that, throwing everybody out? Why would I not be able to believe that? I understand that some people don't like, people don't like dominant stars for some reason, and I feel like that's a change from the 90s. I feel like people want everybody to have the ball and be the score the touchdown. It's like, well, there's only so many points that can be scored in the game. So I don't know. Brian, do you feel like
I look at it as just like you have to. It's just like with any big time fight, who's gonna be on the marquee. And I mean, we kind of already knew the big stars in the company. I mean, it's Brock, it's Roman. On the men's side, there's gonna be people putting asses in seats. And then on the women's side, Ronda, I mean, you can just hear it in the air. And we all knew if Ronda was there in the Royal Rumble, she was winning. Like she's not coming back to lose, and they're not gonna keep playing things out for her to kind of, get a chance. I just felt like it could have been a better way to tell the story of getting us Roman and Brock at WrestleMania than the route that they took when they just took the belt off Bobby Lashley. Like, Bobby Lashley looks great with the belt, and to have that story being played out, I just felt like you could have had a different way to get there. Yeah, I'm saying that you can have a different way of getting to Roman and Brock at WrestleMania than the route that they took.
Lashley won at the Royal Rumble, though.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Lashley won at the Royal Rumble, but to have him win it and then come right back and get it taken off him in the Elimination Chamber, you might as well just had him just win it and not have Brock at all win the Royal Rumble and then have a different way of kind of playing it out, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and I agree. I would point out, and this is where we have to remember as wrestling fans, because I agree with everything that you said there, but WWE is also a business. And so, they had the Saudi Arabia show, the Elimination Chamber, and I'm pretty sure that, you've got to guarantee certain stars or certain star power that needs to be there, which is why like a Goldberg came back, kind of out of the blue. And, if Bobby Lashley is really going to have shoulder surgery and be out for like 4 months now, it's like, okay, so is this, because I was like, wow, you flew the guy over there just for him to go into concussion protocol? Like, that's a heck of a way to do the story. And I'm like, where does Big E fit in all this? I mean, here's a guy who had the belt, and he just got kind of thrown to the side. Again, it seems like there could have been a smoother way to figure out all this to keep it all in sync. But again, what were the commitments that had to be made for Elimination Chamber? When you bring in a Ronda Rousey, the extra attention that you get on the likes of ESPN and on Entertainment Tonight and all that kind of stuff, I mean, that was part of my job with the Battlehawks as director of communications. I was, tasked with get as much earned media as you could. Anytime we were on the news, that's great because that's the logo. You're out there in front of eyes. That's advertising that you don't have to pay for. WWE keeps all that in mind. Logan Paul, do I actually really care about Logan Paul and The Miz? No, but it makes sense for WrestleMania. They've got a 2-night WrestleMania to book. Logan Paul has a ton of followers, and unfortunately, that equates now to, again, those earned impressions and people who are going to tune in. I was hoping Ty Woodley was going to kick Logan Paul's butt. I'm happy that T Wood got paid. I'm happy about all that, but the fact that Logan Paul keeps winning these fights is driving me nuts. But that's exactly what they want because people are going to pay to finally watch him get knocked out. Now you're pairing him with The Miz, and you're getting all that extra attention. It's about business too, and how do they get more people to tune into Peacock and pay for WrestleMania? So we got to figure out, again, sometimes as wrestling fans, we're like, oh, how are they doing this? Sometimes it's strictly that business decision. Bad Bunny I don't understand why he had such the role that he did in the Rumble. I get why he was in the Rumble though. Same with Johnny Knoxville. I was glad they all beat the crap out of Johnny Knoxville, but it's they walk that fine line sometimes, and sometimes they tip too far to the other thing.
I actually
sorry. It's funny how you brought up Goldberg, and I could tell Sadal probably had like a big old vein just popped out of his head because he can't stand seeing, guys who are way past their prime, still make appearances, on shows.
Fence. Saudi Arabia paying. I want gold. That's what I think it comes down to.
But yeah. You know what? When you look at fans and you look at the situation now. Sadal is just a completely different example because he just doesn't like people past a certain age for some reason. But it's funny when you look at WWE. Fans complain Goldberg is there, right? I mean, I don't like. It's one of those things, kind of like the celebrities. I understand why he's there. I don't really have a problem with it, right? Sometimes they could put him in better situations. I would say, like that Undertaker situation. It wasn't a good situation. He should have been in a better situation. But people will say, oh, I don't want to see Goldberg. Don't want to see Goldberg. Sting shows up in AEW, and everybody's like, yes, Sting, wrestle for as long as you want. And he's been wrestling longer than Goldberg and is older than Goldberg. And by the way, still got my picture of Sting that I got when I was 11 years old, so I have no issues with Sting. But it's just weird that it seems like there's more of a wrestling culture war sometimes when the arguments are, oh, I don't want to see this old person, but if an old person shows up on the other show, it's love it.
I don't think anybody minded Lita coming back, right?
But do people really I don't think people consider her the same way. I don't.
She was brought back again for this short little run. Goldberg was brought back this short little run. It was now if Goldberg would have defeated Roman, that would have
been a problem,
right?
Yeah.
But you know what? He came back. Maybe it was his last match. I don't know. I doubt that. I always hear the Terry Funk forever, and then he came back like how many more times? WWE does need to make sure they're continuing to create their own stars. You've got to replenish the young talent, and that could be some of the argument that they're using. So, they're bringing this back. AEW, definitely. You look at what Sting's doing, what Matt Hardy's doing, Billy Gunn, the veterans that they brought in, they're elevating it. CM Punk and what he's doing with MJF. I haven't seen it yet. I've got it taped from tonight, but apparently they had another incredible War of Words, a great promo segment on there. And Punk's a little younger, but again, if you're, and like you said, if you put him in that right situation, I think that's the key. And, when Goldberg came back before, think of that Kevin Owens match, I don't think Kevin Owens gets enough respect. I don't think while you're on here, I don't think Yuri Collins gets enough respect nationally for being one of the best point guards in the country. I don't think Kevin Owens gets enough respect for what he's done, the way that he reveres the business and the moves that he's taken in matches as a tribute, or what he's willing to do working with people. I don't think he gets enough respect for what he does there.
Well, you know what? That comes back to what we talked about earlier. So let me ask your opinion about this. If the rumors are true, and it looks like they are, if Stone Cold Steve Austin comes back and he faces Kevin Owens and he beats Kevin Owens in Dallas, Texas, is that good or is it bad?
If it's anybody else, I would probably say it's bad. But since it's Kevin Owens, and we know the respect that he has for Stone Cold, if it's all true, it's to have that pop, that final farewell for Stone Cold, and just like AJ did for Undertaker. I think this is Kevin Owens begging, pleading, saying, "I want to be that guy. Let me do it. I want to get stunned by Stone Cold to be the last official stunner on record." I think he wants that. I think that's actually respectful. And knowing all that, I'm okay with that. If this was a case of Kevin Owens being put down and they're going to go on some extended run with Stone Cold, to be like, come on, he's not. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's WrestleMania. It's in Texas. Stone Cold never really had that farewell. I mean, we know he can still deliver a stunner here or there, but to have, a 5-minute match? I mean, the beer drinking is going to be longer than what the match is going to be. We know that. And there's no doubt in my mind that Kevin Owens is like, he was probably first in line begging and pleading and saying, let it be me. I want to do this.
Yeah.
I think, and it's going back to what we just got through saying about the Prince. I don't think this is going to be Stone Cold's last match. I think he's going to do the WrestleMania, but you can't tell me if he's coming back for one last match at WrestleMania, because Vince, WWE, they love to break that glass whenever they find themselves getting in trouble. But one of those things
about
where
spinal stenosis, though, that's the whole.
I don't think he wants to travel to Dallas, Texas. I think that he'll probably make the money that they're making in Saudi Arabia. He'll probably make in Dallas. So I'm not
sure.
But
it's one of those things where we seeing Goldberg travel. Undertaker was supposed to have been finished a long time ago, and it's like one of those things where if they say give us something, where we say, come on, Steve, give me one, he might just say, I show up over there to do something.
Right, but he's resisted thus far, and again, his not personally knowing the condition of his neck and his back. I mean, that was the thing. It wasn't just the neck surgery; it was spinal stenosis. I mean, his spinal cord's compressed. The area around it is shrinking. So, I mean, he'd be limited. I know we've seen Edge come back, and obviously Bryan Danielson's come back. I mean, Lita had neck surgery. It's come back. Kurt Angle's gone through a ton of stuff. I don't know physically what Stone Cold really could do for an extended period, right?
I would expect a basic brawl, a Stone Cold Steve Austin type brawl, maybe even go into the audience like they used to do back in the day, come back in there, and nothing where if he left his feet twice and one of them being the stunner, I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, for one night, no doubt in my mind. But how many nights could he do that to do any sort of extended run? That's the thing. One night, I'm sure he can, do that. But or I shouldn't say I'm sure. I feel good.
I also wanted to say that I have a prediction for WrestleMania. I think that the Bobby Lashley thing was purposeful because, again, 2 nights of WrestleMania, you have Bobby Lashley who's placed in this match, and like you said, I don't think that they would fly him over there if he had some type of shoulder issue. It would have made more sense for them to just say, well, last minute, we're going to guarantee that we're going to have a new WWE champion, and we're going to put, somebody like Big E or Seth or Kevin Owens. Was Kevin Owens in the match? One of them in the match. Randy Orton. That's who I was thinking of. One of them could have went into that match, and then they could have had that with the guarantee of a new champion. I think that they would have tweeted that out and had no problem doing that. So I think that the Bobby Lashley thing was purposeful. And if I had to guess, and I could be completely wrong, but if I had to guess, I would say, or they just announced that March Madison Square Garden show, and I'm gonna guess like a week or two after that, Bobby Lashley shows up with MVP, and they convince Adam Pearce.
Yes, for Triple Threat.
No, not
something else.
You have 2 nights of WrestleMania.
Oh, you did say that before.
I would guess you have the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match on night 1, and the winner winds up facing Bobby Lashley, who never lost his WWE title, on night 2.
It's out there. I mean, and again, see, this is the discussion that's fun and it's smart and it's intelligent, and that's how it works with wrestling. I think it can because of the possibility. Is he really having shoulder surgery, or Is this part of the bigger plan to have Bobby return? You know, I mean, if he is really going to be out for an extended period of time, then guess what? Yeah, Brock technically never beat him, so we can have that Brock versus Bobby version 2. I mean, we got a taste of it at the Rumble, and I'm like, yes, more please, and let them go, because we know their backgrounds. I mean, it's like that is a matchup we've been waiting to see. You know, let them mix in some of their amateur and MMA backgrounds with it all. Just go to town. I mean, they're both huge, two of the biggest men you're ever going to run into. It's all right there. But yeah, when you look at the main event of WrestleMania, Roman versus Brock, and you know, Paul Heyman's happy to, you know, he'll go as the wind goes. He's always in the hustle. As somebody pointed out, he's always in the hustle. He would go back to Brock in a heartbeat if it would benefit him. We know that. So can Roman really trust him? Does that happen there? Does Bobby come back? Does The Rock come in at the end of WrestleMania to set up things for next year? I mean, there's all these great possibilities that are there.
Man. Can we do a year-long story building up to the next year's WrestleMania with that?
Rock and Cena did.
I'm about to say they all did it before.
Because I mean that's the storytelling that I want to see. To kind of like slow cook it, you know, throw in some little lifelines to probably every pay-per-view that kind of hints at that. But I mean, who am I? I'm just a casual wrestling fan. I'm pretty sure all these ideas have been, you know, writers in the writing room probably threw all of this stuff up against the wall for them to come up with.
We can hope they do.
And T-Bone, do you still feel the same about Cody Rhodes? Do you feel like this is just a play in with AEW, or is he really gone?
I feel that on paper, he may be gone. I don't think that he's leaving that company. I know that there's a bunch of rumors, and I could be shown completely wrong, but I still don't believe that he's leaving the company. I believe right now both companies benefit in the short run with him being talked about in the speculation. And I think that they said Edge made a reference of Cody Rhodes on TV. I didn't actually get to see Raw.
Miz was teasing before it was Logan. He was talking about dashing and everything else. It's there, but let me put this question out to you guys. And I like Cody Rhodes. I respect him. I think he was underrated in WWE. I think what he was doing in AEW was great. He probably was not selfish enough and not taking care of himself and putting too many other people over, whatever the case may be. But if Cody were to go to WWE, I don't see a feud that jumps out at me as automatic money. I know some people have said, "Oh, well, he could face Randy Orton, and they could go to Legacy and lead to the turn on Riddle." They could. I mean, that makes sense. I could see that, but that's not like main event WrestleMania. Like, oh my gosh, Cody showed up and did that. If Cody stood in the ring against Roman, again, I'm not invested yet. They could get me there, but it's not an automatic. When I look at AEW, and especially with what has happened right now, imagine the storylines to be told with Cody and Tony Khan, with Cody and the other EVPs that help form everything, Cody and Kenny and the Young Bucks and all that. Be like, whatever it is that went down, whether Cody got too big a head or he thought they did, or whatever the power struggle was, and maybe there wasn't even a power struggle. We don't know. Maybe he and Brandy just had their first child. Maybe he wants some time away. We know he was banged up and dealing with injuries. Maybe this is negotiation, whatever the case may be. There's built-in storylines that are main event. I want to tune in and see them play out in AEW. Absolutely. I want to know what's going on with that. Whereas in WWE, they're going to have to sell me. They're going to have to reel me in. Right. Versus I think Cody's more valuable to stay in AEW.
Yeah. Man, Cody's coming over doing jobs for everybody in the WWE. He's a mid-quarter, and it's I don't see any scenario of an AEW guy leaving AEW, coming to the WWE and beating any talent that's over there. They just basically won a war, kind of quote-unquote war with them, and he comes over. Oh, man, the locker room is going to be split in half, and he's going to have to do jobs. And like you said, he's probably just better off just staying there because he's a mid-card. He's not – I don't see him being – like a main eventer over there. I mean, he wasn't a main eventer when he left, and he's just gonna come back and get into, I don't even see any type of fuse that, like you said, that's appealing. Really, if he comes over.
Let me tell you why I disagree with that. If you have Cody Rhodes come over, Sorry, having issues with my connection. If you have Cody Rhodes come over and you have him lose to everybody, what do you gain from that? And I know that sometimes you think that they're a petty organization, but here's what I mean. Let's say you want MJF and you want younger stars and you want stars. You want MJF in a couple years to at least give you to consider you. Maybe they want Wardlow in a couple years. What do you get if you have Cody Rhodes lose every week, or not even every week, but he's just perceived in a lower level and not perceived as important? No, whoever that first person, whether it's Cody Rhodes or anybody, especially that VP level, top guy level, they come over to WWE from AEW. The first one's going to get treated right for sure. It's the ones after that would be the problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying, because I think this is going to be real interesting to see how both sides react to this. Wherever Cody winds up, like what happens out of it. But you look at when AJ Styles showed up in WWE. I mean, it took a while before AJ finally started getting to be AJ. You know, when Bobby Lashley came back, it was like everybody's like, "Ooh, here Lashley's back," and it was like, so when is he going to get a title shot? When's he going to get to be Bobby? He's there now, but it was slow. And like for Cody, I don't like take the pencil. If you're bringing Cody into WWE, what do you have him do to make that big splash and build off of it? That's actually like, that's not mid card as BT. I mean, what do you do? And it's not a knock on him, because I think Cody can wrestle with anybody, but I just don't. I mean, Cody versus Seth, like. Okay, Cody versus Roman, Cody versus like who? Because WWE is kind of limited. I mean, you're gonna have Cody versus Brock.
They're going to be heavily gimmick. Like he's going to have to go back to some type of gimmick to get over. Like you said, Bobby, they basically you have to eat crap. If you coming over, you're going to have to eat some type of crap for a nice period of time before you able to gain the respect, even of the people that even in the organizations. But I just think he's going to have to come up with some type of gimmick, and I think they are petty, and to the point to where they'll say, all right, go back to an old gimmick that you had, and all right, see if you really want to be here type deal. So I don't know. That's how I feel. It's just one of those things where.
Here's something else we can't forget either, because Cody's got a lot of his daddy in him, right? He likes to build things. He sees things in those movies. He's had success with AEW. He helped do a lot of that groundwork, a lot of the groundwork that, you know, was behind the scenes. Who's to say that Cody and whoever else he works with doesn't get involved and, you know, they buy up like Ring of Honor and they start like their own, you know, again, like he's had success with AEW now. And I mean, the wrestling landscape right now is fertile. Like if you're going to do something, this is where you're going to have other networks saying, yeah, I want a piece of that. I'm willing to take a shot on that. And there's enough talent out there. So, I mean, yeah, he could either one of those. He could be back in AEW, he could wind up in WWE, or I could see Cody doing something different. I mean, even showing up in NWA on the phone with Billy Corgan and setting something up. But I could see Cody wanting to be the entrepreneur, and this time he is going to be in charge completely. Not EVP, he's going to be the president. Boom. He's the CEO.
I mean, shoot, ask Braun Strowman. They just started control your narrative. They trying to get a TV deal already.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
EC3, right?
Yeah. I still think that he would stay with AEW. Not even just because of what WWE would likely do to him or anything like that, but he's got it would seem unfathomable because he's got everything he wants. He's got his own reality show. He's a part of another game show thing. Like he has connections there with Warner Media, and it would just seem it just wouldn't seem likely to me that he would say, yeah, I'll give that up, and then go be on the roster of the WWE or anywhere else, because where else is he going to get the type of exposure that he wants? It's one of two places, and even though he could get, you know, do something with ROH, I don't think that would be on the level of what he's trying to do. Because I think obviously people think that he has bigger aspirations, like, you know, some type of Hollywood aspirations or something like that. And there's only really one major place and a secondary place that he can have that type of exposure. And I don't think that he would leave AEW.
It seems hard to imagine. I mean, again, like there's a lot more to put on the scale for AEW than any of the other groups. It's like that to me, there's a lot more things to keep him there than to go away. But
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Now, and maybe you can tell me if I'm just imagining things that are different, but it seems now, especially once AEW became a thing, it seems like there's been a transition of wrestling journalists from being the sources of information and offering opinions on certain things to now trying to be influencers for certain companies. And I wanted to know if that's maybe something that I should consider new, or is that something that's just been there all along? Because I know in the past, people have liked who they've liked, but I've never seen it to where one person is trying to tell you, no, you need to watch this company, don't watch this other company. They don't say it explicitly, but I just wanted to know your opinions on that.
I am not up on all of that in terms of what some of that's being out there, but I would just tell you that if you're a wrestling fan, why would you not want to watch it all? I mean, again, you may like some of it better than other parts, but I was excited when AEW was coming about because it was like, great, it's another show to, and again, I don't get to watch all of them, but I was excited. I was like, one, that's more opportunity to watch. That's more opportunity for the wrestlers, and competition makes it all better. I mean, we get the benefit as a fan. So for somebody to say, don't watch any of it makes zero sense to me. If you're a wrestling fan, you should want to go to any indie show. I mean, again, some of them are going to be better than others, but I wouldn't say, oh, don't. I mean, like, it's wrestling. We're wrestling fans. So if somebody, I think to me, that kind of discredits themselves if they're telling you not to watch, because that's part of what's great about being I mean, we're sitting here having all these conversations on the what ifs. Well, if you're not watching one, then you don't know the what if. You've just got tunnel vision. You're denying yourself. So I think that's very short-sighted.
And I say that implicitly, and I'll use a reference, and I think you'll know the person I'm referring to. When you change when you have a person who gives ratings for matches, and they change the scale that's been 5 stars for however long, and then all of a sudden the scale changes, and you're giving several 5-star matches on one show plus 6 or 7 stars on the same show, and then you're saying all these other wrestling matches aren't, they're lower quality. It's not explicitly saying not to watch, but you're implicitly telling people, oh, this company's better than this other company.
You know what? He's done well for himself for a very long time, carved out a nice niche for himself in the industry. And so for that, I give him complete respect. But that rating system is just subjective. That's just his opinion. Right. Like we were talking about with the Royal Rumble, what BT and I experienced down in the crowd at the Royal Rumble. Like, I mean, again, I walked out of there. I thought top to bottom was a great show. Does that mean that I liked every part of every match? Nope, it doesn't. There's some things where I was like, oh, they didn't do that, or like, ooh. But the overall opinion I had walking away from the Royal Rumble was 2 thumbs up, or whatever rating system you want to put on it. But watching at home, it's a different angle. All of us watching differently, but just because somebody's saying, well, this is a 5-star match and whatever. I mean, I don't know. Was Mick Foley going off the cage? Was that 5 stars or what? But it was significant. There's some people that thought, well, that's not even wrestling. That's just him being a human sacrifice, like just beating himself up. But I thought that was amazing. Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, when they first met toe to toe, and Kurt slapped and all that, like they didn't even actually have a match, but that moment was like off the charts for me. I mean, those things that reel you in and hook you in. I just, again, the people that if you want to do a top 10 list, that's awesome. If you want to do a rating system, like, okay, that's great. But I don't get caught up in that because, again, I'm a wrestling fan. So it's, you're not wrong. Like, who's your favorite baseball player? Oh, no, you're not wrong. That's your favorite baseball player. Doesn't mean that, like, nope, he can't be your favorite because my favorite is this guy. Okay, that's great. That's my favorite. Like, so what? You like pepperoni pizza? Nope, you can't. You have to like sausage because that's what I like. No, I like pizza, man. So it's all good. I don't put pineapples on pizza. I don't think that should happen. But for the people that do, I had that conversation with Jordan Tamu. The dude likes pineapple on his pizza. I don't get it, but he likes it. He's from Hawaii. Okay, that's fine. It's still good pizza.
And speaking
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I
I
was
went
gonna
off
say,
the rant. Sorry.
oh no, it's all good. Hey, that's what this show is about, man. That's what I'm gonna say. Speaking of just right, speaking of amazing, this conversation, this show has definitely been amazing. Before we end this show and we have our special shout outs, BT, I want you to go ahead and finish what you're gonna go ahead and ask first.
No. I was just gonna say like Meltzer and the rating system, like all of that stuff is needed. But I think this is a prime opportunity for someone to be able to take elements of the 5-star matches and the things that he has going, and kind of reinvent the game to where not only are we doing the 5-star matches, but it's a space where someone can, and I think a Ring of Honor tried to do it, but it's basically the sport, bringing in a sports element to wrestling, to where if you're a fan of all the promotions, getting it to where people can actually start putting stats with everything that's going on across the board. One podcast that I would highly recommend if you guys get a chance to check out is called Charting the Territories. And they just go through, I want to say, starting in like the 40s all the way up to, like the 80s, of basically documenting wins, losses, pretty much by every wrestler that was in every top promotion around town. And it's an interesting story to just kind of put a number in a statistical category with a lot of the matches and the promotions. And just being a numbers guy, a sports guy, man, I just found that was fascinating. So that's, like I said, that's a space where someone can possibly find that niche and then just push wrestling forward if they jump into that space right there. But that was just something I just wanted to throw out.
That's what's up, man. Once again, this is your Wednesday night Sports Light. We took it there, y'all. We took it there. We ain't playing no games. We had to take advantage of this opportunity to have the great Brian Stull on, and he was able to get his roses given to him while he's alive. So that's what this show is all about. Any last words, Stull?
No. I would just I just want to thank you, Brian Stull, again for all you did with the Stranglehold, and that's what we remember you by. What we have fire memories of, and I would just consider podcast. Consider.
BT.
No, man. Thank you for having me on, Brian, man. Appreciate, man, the great conversation. T-Bone, Sedale, man. March 4th, Man Cave. We get it going. We get it cracking. And, man, I'm just excited. All right. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and that's going to be March 31st. The Man
31st.
Cave.
Oh, man,
there you
I'm
go.
all the way out here. March 31st.
He'll get his promo game on very soon, Brian Stull.
He's just plugging ladies' night. He was plugging ladies' night.
Right. But yeah, so the last Wednesday of the month, starting next month, the Man Cave. T-Bone.
And again, I think I've pretty much said it all, but just thank you so much for doing the show all those years, and giving us a chance to keep up with everything, even when we didn't have the other means to do it. Radio was fairly inexpensive back in those days. So we look forward to hearing from you more, and seeing more things that you're out there doing, and just thanks again for coming out on the show.
Thanks for making me feel welcome. It's nice to be remembered. Again, that's never taken for granted. So that means a lot. Like I didn't know you guys were going to do this tonight. I was almost afraid, like, what do they got on me? So I'd be ready to duck. But you made it that happy, embarrassing, sort of uncomfortable, or like, oh man. But thank you. That means a lot. And I had a blast. Again, I think I'm overdoing a couple bedtime, so I'll make good up on that. But
same here.
This was good
wifey,
for me.
I'm sorry, wifey. It wasn't playing like this, wifey, but that's how it is. But you're having a great sports talk show and a great conversation.
Absolutely is. So thank you guys. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having me and making me feel good. So thank you.
Man, it was definitely an honor. I'm getting an idea of we have to do at least one nice wrestling show before WrestleMania. So I'll get in contact with you again, Brian Stull, and we can have maybe the same panel to do like a pre-wrestling show or something like that around closer to WrestleMania. So definitely,
I like that idea.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for that because I definitely just enjoyed just seeing y'all talk about wrestling, and then once again, just you getting your flowers that you definitely deserve.
Hey, flowers are good now. we just got to get down to business next time.
Down to business. But yes, once again, speaking of business, it is the Platform Sports Talk Show. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in with the likes, with the shares. Hope you enjoy the conversation. Once again, as soon as this stream is over, it'll be archived on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Roku. So for any Roku devices, just put in the Platform Sports Talk Show, and you can go ahead and show us some love. Let us know about your thoughts on the show, and the whole nine. So definitely next week, the ladies are back. They got some topics they're ready to discuss. Goes down every first Wednesday of the month. Sharita, she's also Brian, Stull, and BT. You all know BT about Sharita, but she knows her wrestling as well. So definitely tune in next week. Her host Bunny, Joe, and Annie. It's gonna be dynamic. The ladies are incredible. And then once again, the fellas coming through next month, March, and I said 31st, March 30th. So the last Wednesday of the month, starting next month, goes down the Man Cave, hosted by Stanton. It's going to be crazy. Stull, if you don't mind, just stand on once the live broadcast ends. We'll do a quick little wrap up. And everybody else, it is your Wednesday night sports delight, the Platform Sports Talk Show. I am your boy Smoooth, and all the way over here we go, all the way over to my left on the screen we have
T-Bone Funk.
Right below me we have
Stull.
And to that bottom corner we have
BT
and special guest
Stully.
There we go. Your Wednesday night sports delight, the Platform Sports Talk Show. Hey, Stull, when it's about sports,
it becomes our business.
And business continues to pick up. And with that being said, y'all, we out, right, we out, Da-da-da-da-da-da.